after all these episodes that I've listened to, I don't know nothing about you.
Right.
And like he pees his pants. He's wearing grey pants, and they just suddenly like just all this water starts coming down the side of his leg.
Please get degrees, you know.
That's the lifestyle,
Some of us get A's. Anyway, so I want my holidays today. I actually wanted them yesterday. I don't want to work.
I'm low-key scared of making new guy friends because I end up always liking them.
Mr. Chief, I laughed the loudest at the joke even though I didn't say it, right? A, have you guys gone to therapy? And B, why haven't you?
Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Disruption Podcast. Hello.
Ew, what was that?
Episode 186. Because I was going to say dummy again, but I was like, I can't do that 2 weeks in a row because we actually do like our listeners. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hey, congratulations to us. We're at 1,000 now.
Did we make it?
Yes. Not yet.
No, he's a liar.
Well, by the time this comes out, we are.
okay.
That's wishful thinking. That's very wishful.
2 days.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
This guy.
But it's Noor the Baghdaddy.
Chief Olasoji in the building, baby.
It's your girl, Marweezy.
He's a prince. What's happening?
And we're joined by a special guest. This actually might end up being one of our favorite episodes. I can feel it already.
I can feel it too.
Yeah. We've
He's
got
sucking up.
Nah, it's been good
I must still roast you.
It's been good energy so far. You know what I mean?
We've got Tigist from Pola Practice. Pola or Pola?
Pola.
Pola.
P-O-L-A. Yeah.
Pola Practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
It's your favorite therapist, Tigist?
Yeah.
What is
Wow.
happening?
Your problematic
Is that
therapist?
Like a catch line?
No.
Catch
I
line?
was trying to go in the flow with you guys.
Yeah. Catch up with the
That
vibe.
could be your line though.
Your favorite therapist?
be.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
there's
But
it
then
has
I'll
to be
get- I'll get-
therapists.
Yeah, I'll
'cause
get
there's two of
feedback
you.
and stuff, and people are like, actually, I don't
But
like
you're
you.
probably therapist.
It's inviting them.
Who said you're my favorite?
Was there an election?
Problematic is interesting. Why you say problematic?
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I swear you did.
I actually don't remember that.
Should we go deeper?
I think we should
delve into
continue on.
I swear I heard that. I'm not tripping
Wait, you
out.
don't remember? So Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I just
This is exciting though.
That's mad.
It is.
You're excited for a therapist to be on the podcast?
Yeah.
Why?
No, it's different. Because this
How?
is what it is.
Because most of our guests are artists.
Okay, there's that.
Not
Not
intellectuals.
even. No, it's not even.
Wow.
Not intellectuals.
Whoa.
Wow.
What? Hey,
Wow.
what's wrong with that?
Nah, that's.
I'm also not part of the intellectual group. I don't know who you're talking to.
Do you have a degree? Miles ahead, mate.
Wow. I do not endorse the views of
There
this
we go.
podcast.
Yes, of
I'm
course.
not gonna lie. I had
Pola
a
Practice
complete
accepts everyone?
different idea of what therapists
Therapist.
would be like.
That-
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
Okay.
Because even today, because we had a workshop, and yeah, we have someone that's really following us, really supports us, loves the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, guys. Because she knows that we record every Monday after
Yep.
the workshop,
Yep.
right? She's like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm so excited. Are you guys recording tonight? I said, yeah. And it's like, oh, guess? I was like, yeah. Who? I said, a therapist. She goes,
Wow. That's a bit embarrassing. Lowest
She was
views
therapist.
ever.
but now it's like the energy.
yeah.
She's going to like this.
Yeah, she's gonna like this.
She
Well,
That
we're
was
gonna
a
make
little
sure
bit
she has
depressing.
fun listening to this episode anyway, because I have a very important question to ask everyone.
ask away, man.
But no, guys, let's
So
just
stressed.
brace yourselves because the last time he started with this shaving bum cheeks. All right?
Okay.
We know the energy.
We've been getting arrested ever since, bro.
And who here doesn't shave their
No
bum
one's
cheeks?
taking us
A
seriously.
lot of
Take that
population.
serious.
I actually brought some gifts.
Right.
Yeah. Some Gillette. Just for
Okay, then.
Hey,
as someone who's familiar
I'm-
with
Yeah,
shaving.
there we go. There we go.
I'm using, all right, I want to make sure I word this properly. All right. Are you guys finishing the shit if you shot? Like if you were just, let's say you're walking home.
Paint a picture. I want the storyline.
Alright.
I want to be
Reminder,
fully in
Alright.
there. Okay, go.
You don't want to be in there. I know that for sure.
I want to be part of the storyline. So
Right.
I'm walking down the street, yeah, and then
No, you've just come out of Coles
yeah.
and I need to go for number 2 so badly. And then you're walking to your car and you're like, it's a 5-minute drive to my home. I'm just going to hold because obviously I don't use public toilets.
Yep.
On your walk to your car, you're like, oh shoot, a fart. So you fart.
Oh no.
It's not a fart, it's a shart. Bit comes out.
Damn. Oh.
Are you just going to finish the poo right there?
In the panties.
In the pants?
Nah, come on.
In the middle of Coles.
Big college in this Australia.
I was thinking about it. Like at that point,
Was this before or after I shopped?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Very important question.
It makes a big difference.
you're on the way out, right? So
Okay.
you're effectively 7 minutes from home, right?
Yeah.
But like you've already pooped your pants. Like,
Hey.
would you?
But not really.
No, but stuff has come out.
But no, what
let's
part of
say-
the not really was?
Yeah.
No, because there is a not really.
Yeah, because
No. As in, like, it's more than just a liquid fart, bro.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's actual poo has come out.
But you do know there's a bit of distance between like the cheek. Do you get?
Yeah.
Like it's not just bumhole underpants.
Yeah.
Like
I
there's
feel like
cheek.
if you're aware that something happened, it's past the cheeks.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's gotten into,
No,
it's gotten
because
into,
it may be
it's gotten into the
contained.
linen,
I feel
you
it's
know?
mush.
It's
It might,
gotten
yeah,
into the
exactly. It
linen.
might be contained
Finish the
within.
story. So you felt
too
it,
late.
and now it's there.
too late. Yeah, it's there.
You've had to ruin the pants. Like you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has to be at that level of stress.
Because I was
The pants
thinking,
are done.
I'm thinking about it, right? Like, I
right.
think instinctively, your
is
mind
mad.
goes,
Yep.
don't finish it.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Right?
You
That's
clench,
what your
you
mind
clench.
says.
I've already-
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's the point? What is
What's
the
the
What do you
point?
mean, what's the
What's the
point?
bro, you
So
already
don't
got
shit
do
your
the
pants
caca
and
on
it's
your
coming down
pants.
your leg.
Yeah, but it's like
So you
it's
stop
the
it?
amount of embarrassment you want to have publicly.
Right. And discomfort in the car
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the way home too.
Yeah.
I, as a previous,
Caca.
yeah, as a previous caca pants, I already explained it when I was doing hurdles in year 12.
I said
Yes,
it.
yeah.
Oh wow. Which episode number was this?
I was doing hurdles. It was
Yeah.
year 12. A situation went down, and it was definitely not a fart. I think it was also more of like a reflex
It's when your
situation.
body is moving.
No, it's also because my knee hit the hurdle, so that just sent.
Wait, what freaking loser?
Is that why you quit? Because
How
you
you
can't.
both of them the same thing?
So did
No,
your coach
it's-
tell you that you have to jump the hurdle? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get that part down, but the knee hit the hurdle, and that sent. You know how the doctors do the knee thing to check your
Yeah.
reflexes.
Yeah.
That completely relaxed
The
everything.
reflexes shit.
Bro, so yeah, I felt to do the
Sphincter.
cuts. Bro, the underpants in the bin, everything had to finish
Yeah.
the situation
Oh,
in the
yeah,
toilet.
yeah.
So how do you go clubbing?
I mean, I'm not doing hurdles.
If you're in the club and someone bumps up your knee, you're like,
Oh, yeah. This is not a common experience. This is a one-time
Can you imagine?
isolated situation, everybody.
Are you sure? I
Okay?
just-
This is an isolated
yeah, you-
situation.
it's a safe
Everywhere we
space.
go, guys, I gotta go home.
Watch my knees. Right. Right, no one can tell me any good jokes. If I slap my knee, bro, I'm like, hey. But but I had to go and, you know what I'm saying, secure the rest of
Imagine
the
if you
bag.
finished right there.
On the hurdles? No way.
hurdles?
Yeah.
well, he would have given everyone something to jump over. So
Damn.
you know.
Facts. It turns into steeplechase now. Bro.
Motivation.
Yeah, so So I don't think I'm completing the situation, please. Yeah. No.
Maybe depends.
Because in that one, you're nowhere near home.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm pulling up in the bush,
You're
bro.
gonna rush home now.
So what's your logic? Your logic is that
it's not my logic.
I've started.
I'm still saying I wouldn't do it, right?
Then
Like, as in-
what's your case?
No, in my mind, I'm like, why wouldn't we? Because like you've already
so
gone
many
this
reasons
far.
not to.
Because it wasn't a choice, right? So it wasn't.
Yeah,
It
Exactly.
wasn't you're like, you know what I'm gonna do in between Colette and
Literally.
Aldi? I'm gonna
Like our own body betrayed us. That's what it was.
your survival instincts come out. You're like, I have to fight, flight, freeze.
That's what I'm saying.
And then
It freeze
a
is
little
the
bit-
main one.
A little bit of fake death, like I just dissociate a little bit.
Just get out of there.
Yeah, 100%. And then as your friend, I'll follow your trail. I'll be like, where's Noor? Just follow the mugs.
It's mad. I pray I never
end up with some
encounter this,
bullshit.
bro. Yeah. Genuinely, I hope I never encounter a situation like that. Because
Oh,
it's
but-
peak stress. It's peak stress.
Oh
It's
no,
ugly. It's very
Yeah.
ugly.
But it's like peeing. If you pee yourself a little, are you gonna continue
but that-
to pee?
that-
Nah, 'cause
seems a little
pee, you
bit
can
more-
really hold it so
Sometimes
much.
No,
you
not
can't
even that.
though.
Pee, you
Sometimes
can
you
let that
actually
happen.
can't.
So, like, you know, in times
Not
of.
if you're the president of South Sudan.
What happened?
Oh, you guys didn't see the video?
No.
I'm
Wait,
sorry, I thought you were going to say
does
something
everyone
racist.
not know about this?
What happened here?
They were at like some formal thing. This is months ago, and he like, it's not funny, but it's funny. He's old and getting like I think he's not well, right?
Right.
And like he pees his pants. He's wearing grey pants, and they just suddenly like just all this water starts coming down the side of his leg, and then whoever released the video, I'm pretty sure they ended up like killing them or something.
Oh.
Yeah, the journalist like
That went zoom.
yeah, because it was
Literally.
like
It's a
you're
roller coaster
disrespecting-
journey.
Zoom.
I started giggling. I felt bad for giggling.
Yeah, and then-
all of a sudden,
Wait, how do you guys not know this?
Wait, I
This
haven't
video has
seen the
gone
video.
viral so many times.
I haven't seen it.
That thing.
What side of
it's because
TikTok
we
or
like to
videos are you
protect
on,
our
mate?
peace and
Yeah,
protect our
you know what I'm
elders.
saying? Not
I don't
even-
like to see my elders in these situations.
How's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
for South Sudan music news and like,
And I haven't seen.
Yeah, you guys are clearly not very committed to the cause.
Yeah.
Sorry,
we are,
sorry,
we are.
lad.
They just live the life. That's all. Yeah.
Wow.
That's not committed enough.
Literally.
I just am South Sudanese.
But yeah, thank you, Noor, for the deep dive into what happened. What
Very
were
good
you
way to
thinking about
start.
this, bro?
No, I genuinely heard the same question on Brilliant Idiots, and I was like, it
Makes
just
sense.
it killed me the way I was laughing at that concept, bro.
This guy's a man.
Well, can I add my
amazing.
2 cents, right?
Yeah,
so,
go for it.
like, in times of distress and stress and all that kind of stuff, people can literally like poo themselves or piss themselves because the way your body like responds to distress is that like it releases all the it focuses on the things that are important
And just
and
Scared the shit out of me.
or
real.
you piss your pants because your body goes into fight flight mode, and sometimes like it's like about being as
as agile as possible.
lightweight as possible, and those 2 kilos of pee, that you like, 2 liters.
It's a big difference.
Oh man.
You're like,
Big difference.
now I could run really fast.
Right,
Because I bet you the next day that you ran and did those hurdles, you got over them.
Yeah, nah, I gave up. I gave up on the career then and there. That's what it was done. But right, okay. That's, I was also gonna say in line with that, we never did our
I did want to
I
talk
was
about
gonna
that.
say
our
that
report
too.
because we tracked our Dukes for a month.
We being me and Daniel.
No, they actually did.
You guys do
I
it?
mean, of
I
course.
don't believe you guys.
So we tracked our
What's in my
Dukes for a
notes?
The
month.
level of enmeshment in this podcast is
What's the measurement?
Yeah, that's a good
Good
word.
word. 'Cause I wanted to laugh.
Very good
I
word.
didn't get it.
I actually heard a completely different word and then
the
you repeated
level
it. I
of
said, whoa.
codependency that's existing here. How completely.
Enmeshment.
What's
Ah.
that word? Level. No, I'm kidding.
You know what you've got? You've got a phone right next to you
I know, yeah, quick
that has Google, right? So just like you Google this doo-doo conversation.
But yeah, no, we're tracking it for a month.
We're
pretty
trying to go
much.
through that now.
No. We have to
No,
we have to collate it, make graphs,
That's a
analyze
solo
it.
episode
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
So we actually have to analyze the data from it. And we also don't want you to sit.
We don't want to bother guess with our crap.
Exactly.
Watch me be like, let me guess which shade of crap this is.
Oh, yeah, you definitely. Yeah,
Oh no,
there's-
we took those details down.
yeah. It's an in-depth report.
I love that, like the commitment
The
to the mission, right? Like
Right.
it's just also like
That's what I'm saying. But there's a lot on the tables though
it
today.
is.
In terms of what we shall be diving into, isn't it? Right? Yeah. I think you've got some interesting takes definitely on some certain things as well. We've also got some angles of different things that we've been looking at throughout the week. So I mean, I might as well just jump into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait.
I feel like there will be a lot of celebrity talk on this episode.
Word
Just
up.
because, like, last week I admitted that I enjoy listening to problematic celebrities, artists, musicians.
Yes.
I do enjoy R. Kelly's music a lot.
And he said it again with chest.
I
man.
do
you said it
enjoy
again, yeah,
Chris
you said
Brown's
something.
music a lot. Who else?
You know you don't
I
have
like
to do
some
this.
Tory Lanez.
You don't have to.
No,
you just want to open up a list of everyone that.
and then this is the thing. Like, all those guys are problematic. Maybe I view them as more problematic because it's towards women. But then I was like, oh, shoot, all my other favorite artists are all criminals as well, like in terms of drug dealing and all this kind of stuff, right? And so I'm like, oh, like,
There's a trend.
what is that?
There's a trend
like,
there. There's a
why do
pattern.
these people make the best
It's
music?
like the selective outrage,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got caught out this
'Cause-
time, right?
Wait, what's selective outrage?
He's like, yeah. No, I was actually on your side. Like, I was saying that, like if I was to open up, like, a hip-hop playlist or,
Yeah,
like,
on your iPhone.
or, like,
selective
anyone.
outrage.
Yep. There we go.
If I was to open up Spotify
Yeah.
or something like that and see a lot of these artists, especially male artists, have a history. And why am I more mad at this person? Because, is he on the news right now when, like, R. Kelly right now is so quote unquote cancelled, right? But he was still doing the madness that he was doing 10, 15 years ago at his peak. And he wasn't.
He was still getting
cancelled.
features like even 6-7 years ago. Like,
Yeah,
he was on that
so-
Justin Bieber's Journals album. I only
Yes.
realized that the other day.
Oh,
Yeah.
PYD.
Yeah.
That song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I completely forgot R. Kelly
Yeah.
was on that tune. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a level of, like, we pick and choose who
We want to.
we want to. And it's also kind of like, my opinion on this is that, like, I think it's such a personal thing, right? So I'm gonna out myself here.
Okay.
I'm not really listening to R. Kelly, even though he was the guy that I went to listen to the music, right? Like, I was like, same girl was my both
Seriously.
sides, right?
Seriously.
Right?
Singing,
It,
right?
it was. And Michael Jackson, another example, right? But individually, I found, like, the artist versus the work that they're doing, it got to a point for me where I was like, I just can't listen to this person.
Yeah.
That's an individual choice. So I think there's things that people choose to do individually, and then there's, like, a collective conscious of what people do.
Yeah.
And that collectively, I think that it gets to a point in the wider society where they've done so much, or, like, it's so notorious. It's gotten to, like, multiple documentaries and all that kind of, which means that they've had to do a lot of stuff for it to get to that point.
Trey Songz.
Right?
Who do you have on that list? Who's on your list there?
So I said too, I'm still low-key like, I hate that I listened to Chris Brown privately. But it did things for me in 2009, yeah?
Right. Some serious tunes.
He's got a chokehold on you.
Oh,
He's a serious
man.
Oh, we can't laugh at that.
Camera's on
Damn.
me. The camera's on me. But yes, there's some serious tunes in there.
And I
for
think
sure.
it depends on like what it brings up for you. And I think like the Michael Jackson, R. Kelly stuff for me is too much.
Facts.
Oh, Michael Jackson.
I was gonna go down this collective consciousness thing,
Yeah.
Like, how do you understand if you truly believe the things that you're like? You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff that it comes to our mind, like because a lot of people are talking about it, and we feel like we should be outraged about certain things, and so we are. We post, we talk about it. It consumes conversations. I would like to say maybe truly, inherently, we actually are about these things. But then when phases die down or life gets busy, and we're not actually talking about these things anymore, how do we actually, in those moments, like be able to like decide, am I truly feeling this, or is this literally just because everyone else is making noise about it right now? Like, can we even distinguish between those two things? Like, does it come from the same place ultimately? You know what I mean?
Yes, I think like you can distinguish. I think if you're doing, I think the reasons for why you're doing something is really important. If I'm sharing this political issue because you shared it, and not because I care about it, that's fine. But I should know why, the intentionality behind why I'm doing. And I think the collective conscious thing, I think, yes, people do follow others, but it often, that's how movements start, right? It starts from like someone who wasn't involved finding out by someone else who was involved. And I think I realize what I really care about something is when the proximity from the issue, it gets further and further away. So if I'm still
really care about it.
Yeah, so let's say the issue was a hot topic in 2019, right? Like George Floyd 2020 be a big deal.
Yeah.
If I only did that little black square then and then walked away from it and never did it again, then was it just a proximity thing? And then what's my intentions around doing that? Whereas, 3 years, 4 years later, if I'm still caring about it, I'm still engaged with it, then that's probably because I care about it.
Yeah. What about at the time though?
Yeah.
How do you know at the time?
If
Like, in let's say 2020.
Yep.
How do you know at that time that I actually really care about it? Like, I'm saying at that moment, there's actually probably no way to be able to distinguish those feelings, right?
Between, are you talking about like a public thing, like a big controversial thing?
Yeah, big
Like
major.
you would know
Yeah.
internally.
I think you
Like,
do.
yo, am
Yeah.
I just performing here, or
I mean, people just aren't
Like-
honest with themselves.
But now I'm
terms of
sure
where
because
they
there are people that are
stand.
performing, but they feel like they're genuinely like.
But they don't know though.
Yeah, if you're performing, you're performing.
but,
you
but
know
they,
it.
But they know. You know what I mean?
You know what? Yeah, maybe because I'm looking at a movie perspective, and I'm just thinking about like there's certain demographics, right, that will be performing of certain things, right, in movie context, yeah, and they're saying all the right things, and they use the certain tones, and just really, like, yeah, this thing moving me, it feels me, and I'm like, I feel like in their mind they've deluded themselves to believe that they actually probably care about these things.
I think there's a few things that you can measure. So you can talk about the thing that they're saying. You can look at their behavior, look at if they're being accountable. So the person who says, "Hey, I'm sorry, I made that offensive thing to women." And like, am I doing it again? Am I doing it? Am I doing it
That
again?
was all the side eye in one.
She ready, bro.
It was a side head. I was like, I want everyone to know who I'm looking at. Yeah.
So accountabilities and them things. There
Yeah, so you're looking at like, okay, so let's say that I think you're talking about the public apologies, the saying the politically correct thing
Right, all that,
at the
yeah,
right time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we all know how to finesse woke language, because it's become, it was a thing that communities created to create accountability, and often marginalized communities created to have language for what they're going through, right? And then it comes into the bigger sphere, and then anytime that something is for everyone, it means that people can like use that language and kind of use it against themselves or manipulate it to a particular way.
right.
So you know the language, you're saying the right thing, you've got the little black square for George Floyd. Okay, then what are you doing after that? How are you keeping yourself accountable if you're being called out? What are the other actions that you're doing afterwards? I think those, and then what are the conversations that you're having? Are you paying the rent? Are you what are you doing?
For a second, I was like, wait, what rent are we talking about? I remember what,
Rent, my
I was like, oh, okay, I know what you mean.
Centrelink is in the building. What's
I was like,
going on?
whoa.
I was going to say what's actually tough or what's actually hard to measure is the fact that there's an issue that happens, and then before you can even deep it, there's another issue that comes up again, right? And then another one, right? So it's almost like if you care, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, cool, I'm trying to deal with this, and then now next thing you know, you're dealing with another issue that you're passionate about because the world just keeps moving, right? And then there's another one that pops up again. So ultimately, it's going to be hard to actually know if you actually truly care about it, because now I've been trying to deal with about 4 or 5 different problems. You know what I mean?
There's the whole thing of like, how many things can I care about that?
Black Lives Matter just popped up, but then I'm pretty sure there's like 4 other social issues that happen after that as
100%.
well. Right? So then
Everywhere.
now, and we try to care, and then we jump on this, and then we jump on that.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to do at the
Your
end.
level of engagement can be different for each issue
Oh,
as
yeah,
well, right?
100%, yeah.
So some things it's going to be a quick share on the storyline, and that's it. Like 24
Like
hours
your
later,
part.
it's gone. It's out of my head. I've stopped thinking about it, right? But other things, you might be on the forefront, on the ground. You might.
100%.
So you're also allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Because there's also people who are going through it, and there's people that want to support people that's going through it.
Yep.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, example, Black Lives Matter situation, just to go back to it real quick, is like, I might be going through it, right? Because I'm black, right? My friend over there that might not be black, but they want to support me, right? So they might share,
Yeah.
right? But then ultimately I have to deal with it. You know what I mean? But they're just there to kind of
I would say
support.
the ally should be doing more work than the person who's going through it in that specific
Just
scenario.
rest up, Carlos, man. Just take it easy, bro. Let your friend
Really,
handle it.
I have not seen that though. You know what I mean?
I was gonna
But
say that, like, yeah, like who. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree to an extent, but it's also like, who are we to also like dictate and tell people? Like, if the ally wants to post, if they did the black screen, you know, on their page, and then that's all that they've done, I'm like, if that's what they choose to do, go ahead, my friend. You know, that's fine. That's fine for you. If you feel like that's you playing your part, that's cool. But it's also like, I understand in terms of like, okay, you just doing that isn't enough. You know, that's just you joining the crowd. That's just you kind of like, okay, saying, yep, that's it. You know, look at me. I've joined the movement. I'm part of it and stuff. So I get that there is a deeper, but I'm also like, yeah, if that's the part that someone wants to play and that's it, then
Just say it with your chest.
I'm
though.
cool, yeah.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah.
I'm just putting this square right now because I was a bit in my feelings. The video went for 13 minutes. It was really hard to watch. And everyone else did it. So you know what? I'm going to put it up there.
And that's it.
And then tomorrow, that's it. I'm going to go back to my Zoom and I'm going to Netflix and chill,
chilling.
right?
You get
But
me?
just say it with your chest.
Yeah.
And I think communities can also understand that and be like, okay, yep, you know, your level of engagement with something, even though I'm asking you to do more, which, you know, you should be doing more. But if you just say it with your chest, and I think a lot more people are able to understand that, then them come up to you and be like, I care about the cause so much. Oh my God, your life must be so hard. Yeah. And then just be disingenuous.
But that's the thing. We like level of engagement. We look at that through social media, right? But then behind the scenes, they could actually be doing a lot more as well. Like in terms of conversations with other people, right? They could be educating other people, but we never get to see that because level of engagement is like, okay, cool. She hasn't posted anything on social media, so she don't really care. But I don't actually know what you're actually doing behind the scenes. The conversation you're having with people. You know what I mean?
So the question is, are you only measuring people's connection to it through social media? Because
Yes.
when I said allyship and when I saying accountability, I'm talking about, to me, also outside, which sometimes, and the majority of the time, is actually more important.
100%.
Like you paying the rent, or you engaging with the community in a way that's they're saying, look, I don't want the share on, you know, the socials. What I would rather you do is rock up to this thing, or, you know, put money here, or do this tangible thing. To me, the private stuff is the most important stuff, because that's the stuff to me that shows it's real, and it can make so much more difference. And like, yes, you can share, but like 1,000 people sharing one post could be just as good as one person sharing $1,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's the problem, is the fact that we, like, majority of the time is that we go based on social media engagement rather than what you actually do in your private life as well. Because I've seen that when that whole situation was going on, I'm just like, you can't really judge that person based on what they're doing on social media, because they're doing nothing. But behind the scenes, we don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? But it's interesting, though.
You know what I wanted to run it back to? You said something very interesting about the it's not labels. It was I think you said the accountable words and stuff like that, or the phrase that we bring up for like accountability and that, right? I've actually always thought of that whole movement. Woke, yeah, that was what we're talking about. I've always thought about that whole movement coming from an inverse, the opposite direction. That a lot of these things were brought up these phrases, these statements, these sayings were brought up by the wider group, and that language was then adopted by the minority communities. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, the way that it seems like it's been framed is like people are just trying to navigate around tricky situation and pretty much like virtue signal, and therefore all of these phrases and words, work language was brought up from a wider group and put into the minority. But you're saying that it's more like a minority utilizing words to articulate what they're going through. And then that is to be able to hold other people accountable. And then when it gets adopted, then it starts to look a little bit more fake.
Exactly right.
All right. So that's interesting. Yeah. I'm so like all the stuff when it comes to like labels.
Language is weaponized, right?
Yeah. When it comes to like labels and everything that we use, I'm like, do we shoot ourselves in the foot whenever we talk about or use these certain words?
Has weaponized language that like small minority groups in pockets of the world started. Like being woke was started by communities that were like, I feel like people are sleeping on these issues that I'm going through. And now it's like the woke media has been and it's like, what? Like how, or like cancel culture. But
wouldn't you also say that the far left has also weaponized the same, like the opposite terms? It's like,
yes,
liberal. What's it called? Conservative. As if like that's the worst thing someone could be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Go.
Like as
Explain
in
more.
Someone having certain conservative values is not the worst thing in the world. But if you label someone as a conservative, you've instantly popped them in that whole box of they're against this, against that, against this, hate these kind of people, blah, blah. But it's like maybe they're just not big on certain
immigrants.
No, not even.
I was waiting for you. They're just not big on women's rights, reproduction.
Like let's say they're not big on kids learning about sexual stuff too soon.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. I would say that's a conservative person. Mm-hmm. Fair? Mm-hmm. But maybe that's the topic that they're conservative on. But then you put them as conservative, you've chucked a label on them, whatever. So in my mind, honestly, I'm a middle person for most things.
You're moderate.
Some things I'll lean this way, some things I'll lean that way, whatever, yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, I think the far right, has used things like woke and whatnot as almost as a I actually think this is what it is. I think both sides do this well. They'll take a term that the other side holds to like as a endearing thing and make it look like a low IQ thing. So if the right calls you woke, they're basically saying you're stupid. And if the left calls you conservative or another term like that, just because I can't think of any other term.
Bigot.
Right?
Yeah.
Or bigot, that's a good one as well. It's like, that's also a low IQ thing. So for me, I don't know. Both sides are just as...
See, this both sides things is what I don't sit with, right? I think what we end up doing is we compare things that are grossly incomparable in terms of the impact it has on the community. Okay. So you saying that someone is calling someone's views as conservative, which when you said that thing, I was like, I can see it as being conservative, but I also think if I'm taking a more realistic approach, people are conservative around certain issues and people are a little bit more progressive around other issues 100%. Because both of those terms mean essentially nothing really. It's just like a spectrum of like where you sit on something, right? And then we attach the identity on those terms, right? Yep. So someone who's progressive for me might be different to someone who's progressive for you.
Yep.
Or what is progressive in a particular area might not be progressive in another area.
Yep.
And I think what happens a lot is that sometimes this idea of like, the far left us or those who are progressive, or if that's how they label themselves, are so extreme, and you equate them to the extremism that's on the far right, which is literally killing people.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, I go like, let's not equate them as the same, because they're not, and that's an argument that people often in the far right use as a distraction around the topic, right? So I think that's and coming from an ethnic background, where I'm like, okay, I need to weigh the odds, like the both of these as what's going on. I think it's a little bit more nuanced, and I think politics is very, very nuanced. And anytime I go into a topic, I don't want to ever go into a topic black and white, because that's not how, as a therapist, I know that's not how life is. Yeah. I know that someone who's both a victim can be a perpetrator, right? Like, so and even those language is not the language that we should be using or victim survivors, right? So like, I think I know from an individual experience, but also in the work that I do, that there's so much more gray than there is black and white.
100%.
So I go into it thinking like that, whereas I think it's so much more easier for a particular type of argument on both sides to be like, no, it's just black and white. It's either you love the environment and you only eat grass, or you hate the environment. Not really like that. It's actually but there's a lot more intersections to that. So that's my view, which is a safe view to have, but also like what keeps me. It gives more homework to me. I have to have the homework to look at things in a little bit more critical way.
But you know what's funny with this safe view thing? Like, doesn't that just also now just equal to a safe? No, to a safe world. Right? Like a lot of the time, we actually are doing a lot of this. I think there's principle things in life. I'm never gonna act like there's no principles that we should have and things that we should hold towards. Like this is how. This is
which is based on your values.
You know what I mean? But like this is constructive for society. Like certain principles and things like that.
Such as.
Obviously, don't kill people, right? Do not kill people or something like that. Don't murder. Sorry, cold-blooded murder kind of vibes. Like,
so, do you believe in the death penalty?
I actually don't. I said I don't. Yeah, like I've
But
always
if
said
someone's
that.
gonna attack you, would you, in self-defense, kill someone?
So this is why I said murder, right? As opposed to
Premeditated.
kill.
Out of your
Murder
way.
and kill.
Out of
So
anger.
murder has a different definition
killing.
wherever you go, right? So the definition of murder in Victoria is going to be different to the definition of murder.
Let's go
in the US.
mens rea. Just the straight up mens rea premeditated. That aspect of things. You know what I mean? Just that. Just when you have said today,
I'm going to do
you
this.
get me, right? But all of them type of situations I mean, even in that situation, I would like to think that hopefully there is a way that, you know what I mean, with me still being safe, that person can be neutralized without them dying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The pop kneecaps finished, you know what I'm saying?
Whoa.
They might do a poop at the same time.
We didn't agree to that.
I was following this. All of a sudden, my kneecaps were gone. I was like, what did I do?
What just happened? Where was I going with this? Forgot what we started talking about.
Certain principles for
Yeah,
society.
the principles.
so
the
sucked into
principles
his
of
own
society.
story.
Yeah, I know, right?
for a safe world.
You know what I mean? I was like, that safe aspect, like, ultimately leads to having a safe world because you look at everything in terms of the context of the situation, and then you're able to actually, like, I guess, assess how things should be done. And I guess, but then where I'm going with it as well is like, when we've done this the labels, right? And in terms of, like, there's a new safe phrase though that comes up, or something, or saying, or whatever that comes up every quarter, especially when you work in corporate environments. Like you learn, okay, no, actually we speak like this, we say this is new terms, XYZ. I said, fam, I can't keep up. Like I genuinely cannot.
It's actually hard to keep up.
I genuinely can't keep up anymore in this
You better
world.
get your stamina right there, because you're gonna have to keep up.
But I'm like, what are we creating ultimately? You know what I mean? Like that's why I brought
A
it
more
back to
inclusive society. You don't want people to feel included in their workplace. You don't want
Damn,
people to
bro.
feel well.
I do. Okay,
Please?
generally I do. Yeah.
It sounds
But
like
sometimes I hear
the
things that don't
tone
make
of your
sense.
voice sounds like you don't. Okay, the way you raised your voice sounds
I
like.
love this. Thank you so much.
Hold on, I want to explain this one, or I want you to explain this one,
Wow.
because I want this to make sense for me. All right.
I'll
So
just-
there's this new term,
I don't know it.
because around all the sexualities, right? Because
Yep. 7 minutes. I'm making an edit.
I want to have a job after this, please.
Hey, don't worry. I say anything, she doesn't say anything silly. I say the silly things. All right, but this one, because this one didn't make sense to me practically. Like, I don't see how it can exist at the same time, right? So have you heard of a cupiosexual?
No.
Okay. So sorry. Hard word to say. Cupiosexual describes asexual people who don't experience sexual attraction. Okay. So they're asexual, don't experience sexual attraction, but they still have the desire to engage in sexual behavior or a sexual relationship.
Okay, say again.
So they're asexual and they don't experience sexual attraction, but they desire to engage in sexual behavior or a sexual relationship.
Okay.
So if you're asexual,
It's basically saying that they wish to have sex, even if they don't necessarily
feel it.
enjoy it or they would like it, which sounds
getting
like
the
a lot of
pleasure,
people's
yeah.
relationships.
Whoa.
because I thought an asexual doesn't desire anything sexual.
So
So then how can they desire?
I'm gonna rewind a little
Sexual
bit,
behavior.
and what I'm gonna say because I think we could go down this rabbit hole forever.
Yeah, we can.
Right? And you could literally pull up every single identity or every single subsection of sexuality.
Like
or
straight up
queer.
sense.
I just don't think
Linguistic.
you need to understand it. If it's not something that you
But
experience.
then how could I support something?
Let me
I don't
finish.
understand?
Are you going to let me finish? Can I breathe? Please.
It's my podcast.
And I'm the guest.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you not have
but
manners?
I told you, it's our episode. You're joining us.
Are you not ethnic? Like,
You know what's funny? Both of them are making good points. I'm the guest, but it's my episode.
It's like, I come to your house.
Run,
Please
go.
let me. Serve me first. Give me the drinks.
and let it cook. Let it cook.
I think that this is the way I experience it, right? Is that I don't need to understand everything deeply. If that is an experience that someone has and they're able to label it and I don't have that experience, it's okay.
Yes.
If they've clearly gone out of their way and described what that is, you comprehending and understanding that is your job. And if you want to, I'm sure there's someone of that identity who's doing a podcast and doing it on YouTube who's explaining it better, right? Yeah. But to me, it's as long, like, my job is to know that is someone's experience and that's their, how they wish to identify and how they wish they want to explain their experience. And that's it. Because just like myself as a black woman, I'm trying to explain, not that I'm comparing these two, but when I think of how I rationalize this, I go, okay, there are going to be people who don't have the same lived experience as me and they will never have it. But I want them to be able to empathize and understand that this is what I'm going through. You might never experience this. You might never be your lane. You might never get it. But I deserve the humanity in you at least knowing that there's a label for this and to respect it, and that's it. And if all your job is to be like, I don't know what that is, but do you, boo? If that's it, then there's no problems for you. Because unless you're in a relationship with that person and you're like, okay, so do you want to have sex with me or not? Because I'm so confused, right? Then what's it to you? Like, genuinely, like, if it's the only harm that happens to you is that you have to learn a new phrase. But the harm for the other person is that they have an experience that is completely silenced, that is completely not seen, and has like an iceberg underneath the water, like trauma attached to it or something, whatever attached to it. So like in the exchange of this, like I'm not struggling here unless, I'm HR and I'm trying to define, like, you know what I mean? So like, what's it to me?
Trying to put out a new policy or something.
So you're willing to respect something that you don't understand
fully. But this person's done the bare minimum, right? They've said, this is the name, this is how it define it. And then I can go around and be like, actually, I want to know a little bit more about this. I'm going to go, and because I want to engage in a particular way or whatever, I can do that. The person's done their due diligence for me. And I feel like that's what you're referring to. Like, I have to update myself. I have to.
No, not even necessarily that. It's just that I'm like, this is it actually is never ending. And it probably will never be ending.
And it's not supposed. This is history. This is how history works. At one stage, someone will be like, "So is that black man gonna be inside this building?" Because I have to accept his humanity. Yeah. Like, wow, you actually a human now. You're not an animal, right? Okay, all right. So we're actually writing you into law. Okay, and that at one time was wrong, right? So we're sitting in a point of history where change is happening, and we're part of that change. And I think, given our age, for us, that's something that's difficult, right? It's like. But I'm always the one I'm the one that's creating change. And now we're getting to a point, maybe in 10, 15 years time, you're going to be so used to updating and change because that's what our parents had to do. That's what our grandparents had to do. And that's literally what history progresses as.
I feel like the rate of that has changed. It's very rapid compared, because like we're talking like XYZ years to say this person is not 3/5 of a man. This person is a whole individual. Like that kind of changing of mentalities, like took many, many years, right? But then I'm saying the rate at which things are, like for a human mind, just a human mind.
In the last 10 years, we've probably done as much progressing
of like a millennia. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like the human mind's ability to comprehend this much even change. I'm saying, is that even natural? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, because we're doing it.
but struggling evidently. You know what I mean? Like
People getting fired left, right, center.
literally, that's what I'm saying. Like, we
that's how
can't.
people learn. Like, and then it gets to a new place,
I'm like,
and I won't say it again because I know I need a job. And so I'm gonna keep my thoughts to myself, and HR's not gonna have to deal with me. And that's how change occurs. Because the other side of it is that trans people are like stage 6 of genocide, right? So like the level of harm on the other side.
What's that stage? Like as in what?
How many stages are there? I don't know. I think there's 9. I don't know. But
I don't even know the stages of genocide. I thought it was
So,
just
like-
government wants to kill everyone. That's genocide.
no, I think there's like a level of ratio that happens.
Okay.
And it's like a
Ratio.
development. Somebody's done it, right? Someone's done the research.
Right.
But all I am to say is like the level of harm that is happening for me. If me constantly
I know what
changing,
you mean.
if you just accept the fact that there's always going to be new phrases and terms, and you're going to be okay with that. Like I think conceptually, like my parents had to come to this country and had to completely learn everything brand new from zero. Like when I think of what my mom had to do when she came to Australia and what I'm complaining about at my workplace,
I mean,
is not like, because she's also doing that now.
we can, but like some of those things directly lead to like literally better quality of life, right? You know what I'm saying? For your mom. Yeah. Because you actually have to become accustomed to the land that you're in, right? Like understand the laws, understand how to navigate to get food, etc., how to work. Like that impacts your quality of life, right? But now a lot of rate of change is because it apparently impacts someone else's quality of life, right? And now you actually have to, you know what I'm saying? Like reorient your understandings or your rate. Like
You don't think our parents had to do that themselves? You think
What do you
smacking their kids wasn't something that they had to...
Hey, I'm not gonna lie.
I think they were still smacking.
I'm not gonna
But
lie.
they did it at home properly.
Behind doors.
If we're honest with ourselves, though, is it the fact that there's always these new terms? Like, is that actually what the issue is? Whereas,
No,
like,
no
there's
one's
always
talking about
these, or is it
terms.
just
Like
the fact
that's
that,
I'll say this,
or
right?
is
Like
it
at
there's
the
just
end of the
always
day,
subcategories?
Yeah.
And
Like
it's like
what's
branch
but
and
what's
branch.
wrong with that?
no one's mad. Yeah, no
why
one's
isn't
mad
there
at
1,000 subcategories? What's
Yeah.
wrong? Because I think for me, all these conversations all lead to the same like spring, right? Like the root of it is phobia, right? It's discrimination. It's the fact that me changing this part of I just don't want to do it, and I don't want to do it because of this thing right here, right?
That's
Whether
the
it's
underlying.
racism, whether it's ableism or whatever the thing might be, it stems from there. And the distractionary topics is like, I have to change a word.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that's a surface version of that. Like like that is just the action in terms of the like that is what do you call it? The action that represents the overall societal landscape.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the landscape of society in terms of like I wonder I just wonder when, because we definitely look back all the time. You know what I mean, history, and then we say, ooh, maybe XYZ, maybe this, that. I'm just like, I wonder what point in history we go, you know what I mean? Like, just look and just try to understand.
Well, trans peoples have been existing for a long time before.
But I mean, that's one
before the-
subset of what we're
like,
kind of
you know,
talking about.
but like what I'm trying to say is like, I think kind of what you're talking about is now we're at the stage where everyone's going through this
Wait, but is
at
that
the same
trans
time.
even?
Oh no! So I was just,
Oh, you were
I was,
just talking-
using,
oh, yeah,
I was
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about trans,
yeah.
but
No, my
but
bad.
sexually fluid
Yeah,
people
yeah.
or diverse sexual identities have existed forever. But what we're going through, I think, is that there's never been a time in history when everyone is learning and understanding things at a global scale that we are at now. So I could literally make a TikTok or a video about something and everyone learns about it at the same time.
That's more what I'm
Whereas-
talking about.
Yeah, so I think that is, to me, history has always been progressive and changing and all that kind of stuff, but never has it happened all together at once and multiple information coming at you. And then also like there's, I don't think they've had that. Like our parents' generations have had the grace to learn in like silent over in the corner, whereas I'm learning publicly as I fail.
And that's
on
what
the
that's
timeline.
more. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that. Like I don't know if we're even humanly capable of that feat of being able to deal with everything and everyone's issues at once, learn about everyone's issues at once, know how to navigate everyone's issues. Like our societies and communities have never been that big. Now we have to like survive within global communities. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know how let's say our children to come, etc. Like, because we don't even have the tools to teach them how to navigate in a society where you literally have to deal with every single person's experience and issue. And it can actually have a direct impact if you can't comprehend that. But it's like, how in the world are you even supposed to be able to comprehend every single person's kind of situation and context whilst living through your own one? You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. Like this position that we're in society, this rate of how things move, and the sheer like vast exposure you have to all this has never kind of happened. So I'm like, I wonder what does that do to us, to society ultimately, or to individuals even, you know what I'm saying?
Well, they're talking about like having, like, I know this is the States and I always use them as example because it's like not us. And it's so dramatic, right? Yeah, exactly. 100%, right? They've like, oh, we actually probably should teach our kids media training because like, not that this was an issue. The media's like, this has always been an issue, but it's at a point now where like, you know, a 3-year-old is on, you know, socials at like, you know, YouTube shorts, going through all that kind of stuff. So it's like we're trying to like learn as we go. Yeah. And we've actually got a generation now who've been online since birth. Yeah. Whereas before that, you've had generations that have kind of come onto being online at particular ages, where you've got like a whole generation now who from birth everything is online. Like I was shocked to find out that like my younger cousins don't buy textbooks anymore. Like all high school, everything is Adobe.
Laptop, iPad,
they're like, I've got everything. It was just a laptop.
I'm very happy for them with that regard. But yeah, where are the pens?
Yeah. That was actually the example I was gonna, because you were saying like, are we wired to be able to comprehend all this change in such a quick period of time?
Because I want to obviously provide the context. Like, no one is talking about a particular issue. It's just all the way that we navigate now is what I'm saying. Can we do that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We might be able to, but then it's like we don't know what the effects of that will be. And that's where I was gonna say, actually, as an example, it's like the whole tech thing. It's like there's kids now where it's like their entire life is through online, and it's like clearly they can navigate life, but then it's like maybe it's only in 20 years we'll realize, oh, that actually messed them up in this way, or it helped them in this way. You know what I mean? It will take time for us to reflect and be like, oh,
so we just big chilling and we find out.
But I really
life in general always has been like that, right?
Low-key.
We shouldn't have had those world wars.
So there was 10 stages of genocide. I checked it quickly. I was like, let me just fact check myself before the comments roast me.
Like this.
I was like, let me quickly check.
Our audience does research.
I was like, look, I've seen the comments that you haven't. I don't want to be that person as well.
Oh my days.
Now I was gonna say, are we really learning as we go? Because the way I look at learning is like, if you make a mistake, right, it's obviously you get corrected. Yeah.
And then you change behavior.
But it looks like we're getting punished instead. Do you get what I mean? So it's like,
what way?
Like you said it yourself, I don't get fired, right? So which means that, but we're learning, right?
Yeah.
Which means that if you say something wrong,
isn't that consequences to an action, right? So like, are you getting punished if you were told, hey, this is the rules, this is what the setup is?
But we're still learning though. We're still trying to understand what's going on. We're still trying to understand like what respect looks to you. You know what I mean? So if we're at the learning phase, then I don't understand how people are getting punished for saying certain things, or people getting counseled for saying certain things. And we all globally agree that we are learning.
Yeah, but while you're learning, you can still have consequences to your actions, right? You can be like, I was learning not to be racist, but I killed the guy. Like I couldn't stop. Like, but I was learning, right?
So close. I nearly finished the course.
I said the N-word.
But there's an extent to it, and the reason why I said to an extent is because, as Daniel said before, it's for some people it's very complex. I'm trying to understand. I still don't know what's going on yet. This is new to me, right? So I might not get it at first. You get what I mean? Just because you tell me, hey, don't say this, doesn't mean that I'm automatically.
But to what extent? How far does that go? Because as a friend, I could be like, yeah, sure, sweet, no problem. And then like the depending on where you are and what you're doing, that will change. Like I said, grey, right? So if you're the Prime Minister of Australia, I'm so sorry. I have a great expectation for you. I need you like,
hey, quick.
Learn now.
You need to learn yesterday, last week, right? Like, so.
Loki, I think, like, for example, nowadays when I hear, like, you know, when you hear, I don't know why every single
African.
white male politician
thanks.
has dressed up in a Nazi suit at some
Oh, right. Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
why, yeah.
It's always in the,
But-
in the
Always.
archives,
Always, it
man.
just comes out of
Always.
nowhere. I'm like,
Yo.
bro,
It's
how?
because they don't have to buy the costume. They're like, you know what, let me just go in the closet.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
see.
Just hanging in there.
Like, your grandma. You still have that?
But it's like,
Oh, man.
in a weird way, I'm like, with the guys that are, let's say, 50 years old right now, right? When that stuff comes out and they did it at 20, so 30 years ago, it's stupid, very foolish, absolutely, and very offensive, okay? But then it's like, let's say in 10 years, photos leak of a politician then from 20 years ago, I'm like, you're even stupider than that person. Because you've had the example in front of you a million times.
And still.
Yeah.
And it's like you grew up in a woke-er society, and you still want to dress up as that, bro? Like, come on. Like, well, where's the part? Well, why are you
Yeah,
doing
like
these
if you're
parties?
speaking to someone
Yeah.
from that was born in the
Yeah,
1950s
exactly.
compared to someone that was born,
2000,
yeah, like the expectation that you're going to
Yeah.
have. Even in those stances, like, you'd still want accountability from that
100%,
person
100%.
because you're judging them based on the now standard.
100%.
You can be like, yeah, I get what you did was wrong, but you're apologizing, yeah? Because it was wrong then too, right? Just because everyone
Yeah.
kikied with you doesn't mean it wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there was people side-eyeing him like, this is so racist that I can't say anything, right?
yeah.
So it was wrong then,
Yeah.
but it's even more wrong now. Because now,
know.
I have humanity, So now we've all voted that I'm a human being.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was gonna ask then, moving forward, how do we navigate spaces where it's like, okay, my foundation comes from my faith, and I'm put in a situation where it's like, yes, I'm having to learn all of this stuff. Of course, I'm gonna, I respect you. I respect, what you'd like to be called as. I respect, your lifestyle and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't want to, or I don't feel like the need to have to address you by, what you're forcing me to address you by. How do you now navigate that space, without it being rude or without the consequences falling on me? You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, we both come from different backgrounds. We both have the right to, have the views
I
that
don't
we
think
have.
you have a right
but
to
it's like,
dictate how someone, like, I don't think you have the right. If someone says, this is how I'm going to be addressed,
Oh, no,
unless it's offensive.
Like, you have the right to, live your life based on your foundations, and, we all can respect each other and where we come from and stuff. But it's like, yeah, how do you navigate that conversation now? Or what do you do?
okay. I got lost in a lot of the things that you said.
Yes.
So I'm just going to unpack it a little bit because I
Yes.
need to,
I love that word, by the way, unpack.
unpack,
That's a good word.
unravel. I have so many of them.
Unravel,
Let's
yeah.
unravel, Let's explore.
Dissect.
Explore you.
Yes.
Undress.
No.
No, dissect.
If your therapist
Have
is
you ever used
saying,
that before, Andres?
If your therapist says that.
I actually never used that before.
let me show this to your therapist is saying, and we need
Yeah,
to.
I should report my
Is
therapist.
that a massage therapist? Look at my
See, bro.
What type of therapist is it? Because everyone has different approaches.
Oh, my days.
Let's
Just,
address.
yeah.
Work for me.
Do you have the number of that therapist?
That said a word for
I'm
me.
just gonna call APRA for a second. Make a complaint. I'll write this victim impact statement. Thank you. Where were we? I have multiple words that I use.
Yes.
Good words. I like them.
Yeah.
I like
Thesaurus. I killed it in uni.
Come on.
That's why you're a therapist now.
So overall, however,
Yeah, word count. We're connecting words. That's how words count.
in summary,
Therefore.
It's a furthermore.
Furthermore.
Furthermore. So
I have to
forth.
throw in that there's a mosaic.
Ooh, that's a nice
That
one.
was
Plethora?
plethora? Yeah.
Hey man, give me one. Someone give me one. I need one. I need to fit in. I want to join in. I can't think.
Come on, join in.
Spectrum.
Array.
This is spectrum.
There's
Isn't
an
it right? Spectrum, yeah. Sorry, it doesn't feel good because it didn't come from myself.
Come on, mate.
Anyways, sorry.
Please get degrees,
That's the lifestyle.
Some of us get A's. Anyways,
Whoa. We'll go good.
Touche, man. Hey, touche. Ma, what in the world did you say?
Yeah, no, I was asking, like, if
Digress.
it's based on your faith
And everyone is
versus...
respecting everyone.
Yeah.
yeah, context. I need context
Yeah, no,
because
it's
I
just
think
probably
it's hard to make broad sweeping
Yeah, that's
statements.
the point.
So yeah, I'm not going to make a broad. As someone who's also of faith, I think some of the challenges I face in my work is navigating through that. And I also have chosen to work as a therapist and have chosen to work in spaces where I'm being inclusive and I don't believe it's lifestyles. I think this is people's identities. And if I'm choosing to do that, then as part of my choice, I have a responsibility.
Yep.
And I think, so for me, I'm going to talk about me. That's how I've navigated that. As what is my responsibility, and what are my duties in this space? Because my duties in this space, I'm not a religious therapist, or like I'm not coming in that way. I'm actually coming as I'm agreeing when I'm entering a space to put some of those values and beliefs on hold for the other person. And that might be different for everyone, but I think that there needs to be a level of that in society for it to function.
That makes sense. Can we ever just say, I don't agree, but you do you and I'll do me?
I think that's what you said at the start, right?
Is it
Yes and no. Again, context. Give me an example. I work great with examples.
I think like, because I believe I feel that way about some things, but then I'm also like aware of that can be kind of problematic, right? Because like, let's say someone goes, Carlos, like, I like working with you. I don't feel like we should have had that many immigrants in this country. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there is no way for you to go, that's not offensive. Yeah. Or like, oh, thanks for liking me. You know what I mean? Like,
a lot of these issues you can like, especially if they're not, especially they're yours.
They don't hurt you,
You need to kind of like, this is my hack, So, and it might be wrong, but my hack is like, if I'm not in those lanes, if that's not part of the intersectional experiences of my identity, I go, but what if it was? And let's say it was, and then I try to go, how would I feel if it was something about that? So like as a cis hetero black woman, I don't have some of those identities, right? I am not queer. I am not gender diverse, right? So I have to be like, okay, so the parts of my identities that are marginalized, because that's who we're talking about, right? Marginalized communities, they're not the majority, they're the minority. And often minorities, even within their minority space, I have to be like, okay, let me try and get into the headspace of like, how would it feel for me? And I often use race as an example, because I think people can relate with race because there's often layers within race. And I think if someone was to be like, yeah, I get that you want to, that Black Lives Matter, but, respect the fact that I don't respect it, yeah? What the fuck?
What does that mean? Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
At the same time, like, because race is the best example, but I also think that's because it's such a, like it's so easy for humans to spot it. You know what I mean? So it's like, there is no level of, what's the word?
Cognitive
like if Daniel tells me I'm black, or like, I guess, and he tells me that he's black, right? I don't have to believe him. Like, I can just see it. You know what I mean?
So there's
I think that's
invisibility of certain things. That makes it difficult.
Yeah, like it requires a lot more rational.
So then people feel like, oh, I need to be convinced for this to make or even for even something to make sense in a sense.
But there's invisibility within race. So I think what it is the reason I use race, for example, is because I think it's something that it's on
global scale.
Because these are all global things. Like sexuality is a global concept, right? Or it's a global experience. But I think sometimes it's easier to understand for some people. So you meet people where you're at, right? So even with race, like there's so many nuanced experiences to what race is. A perfect example is being black in Australia. That's a completely different experience. Even the way we talk about blackness in Australia and what black constitutes in Australia is so different. We have Indigenous blackness. We have African diaspora blackness. There's political blackness. There's so many what black means. And so I think you can use something like, I use race because because of my own lived experience, can maybe talk about it a little bit more confidently than I could with someone who, the example that you provided. So I go like, I saw what you did there.
It's so funny how you didn't even want to remember what they're called.
Because I was too busy trying to defend them. So I think there's so many experiences even within race that we can go through, and I think people can understand and unpack that better.
Every time I hear it, I'm sorry.
Can you tell I'm a therapist?
Oh man,
so good.
I'm so good at my job.
No, it's an interesting job for sure. I was actually wondering, do you reckon everybody needs therapy?
Yes.
Mad, okay. Everybody in the world.
Because we spoke about this last
Do you
time.
think it's offensive to tell someone you need therapy?
It's delivery. It's definitely delivery.
All right.
Yeah,
it's true.
Like if I said you need a therapy, like what's going on? Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know,
That
might
sounds
not like
fine
it.
to me.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Nah, say you
Also
need to-
depends.
nah,
Like, when are
say-
you saying it? Like,
And what do
they
you mean by
when
saying
you
it, right?
say
Like,
it? Yeah.
I think I'll rewind a little bit. I think it was nice and dramatic to be like, yeah, everyone needs therapy.
Content.
So contact my details here, right? Right? I think everyone needs help and support. And I think if I'm looking at it from a faith-based perspective, because clearly there's a bit of a link up here with in terms of faith, everyone. I didn't get the memo. I didn't go to church on Sunday. I didn't know I was supposed to
Yeah,
go.
that's the one.
But she's still cool, bro.
A bit of a link up, man.
If I'm using a faith-based example, I think like the original therapists are priests, right? That's what Jesus was for a lot of people. Was a therapist, right? And that language of what is a therapist, it's like a Eurocentric term. It doesn't come from us. It doesn't come from my community. With mental health, the word doesn't come from my community. But the definition of that and what that means is in my community because it defines an experience. And a therapist defines, to me, the concept of like looking after someone, taking care of someone, making sure that their well-being is okay, has existed for centuries, millennia. So I think everyone needs it. Whether or not they need an individual one-on-one therapist, it could be different. Some people might need like a group. Some people might need like community, and some people might need all of them, all of the above. So I think to me, it's kind of like what you need depends on what you're going through, and you might fluctuate each time. And sometimes you might need to talk privately to someone, but my community is like. We like problems in the public. I want everyone to know we're crying in a big group together. Okay, right? So that also is healing for some people. So I think understanding that well-being can look different in different spaces. Yeah,
So, because obviously you're African, Ethiopian background.
Yeah.
So how does when you're telling people that what you do, like how did they react to that? Because obviously, like for me, like my aunts, uncles, when you talk about this, it's like, okay, talk to someone. They don't really believe in talking to someone about what you're going through. Yeah. So what type of reactions are you getting?
So my mum didn't know what I was doing for a while. She was a bit confused.
What's a wow?
Like till now. She thinks I'm a scammer. Yeah? So people coming to see you, I don't understand why. Why you? Of everyone. Like, what's going on? Which is a gaslight because I'm the family therapist. That's why I became a therapist. I'm
Why
like, let me get paid to do
for
this
it,
job that I've been doing since my brother was born. As the family social worker. Let me get my trauma off my chest.
The comprehension of that role is actually
People ask like, why are you a therapist?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a real reason and there's the
the professional.
there's a professional reason, right? And the real reason is because I was bullied into this role by my family.
Oh my days.
As the first female born
That's a role and a half.
child. Yeah. I was everything.
How many siblings? How many siblings?
By parents or in the family? Because the family
that's
siblings are a lot.
Let's go
all the cousins and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that.
So without disclosing too much, I think my mum raised 3 of us.
Right, yeah.
And 2 of them were her kids, but all of them are her kids, even though they're not biologically or children. In the house, there was 3 children, and I was the firstborn. But and even now that I'm not, we have cousins, we have an extended family. I'm so privileged in the fact that I have so much family in this country. But it also means I'm the family social planner. Like you know.
You just know that's your role. It's
I know it's so bad that when we go to a restaurant, I have to bring out my notes app and get everyone's order. You know what, right? You know what? You have the notes app.
Otherwise, no one's ordering food.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
It was just chatting.
Or in your case, no one's ordering drinks. But anyway, so.
That's facts.
Wait, why didn't I catch that one?
It was on a certain episode I listened to.
You've been listening, bro.
I've been deep diving. I did my research.
You don't know your own episodes
Everything
or...
I've ever said.
That's why therapists shouldn't have podcasts.
Oh, man. Yo. Yeah, okay.
Just be reading each other. So last session, episode.
we need that though. To know, are we tapped in the things that we're saying on this platform most of the times? I mean, did you do a psychoanalysis of us? Through
It's a great segue.
Have you done
the episodes?
Not a psychoanalysis.
I would have loved that.
I noticed some things.
Okay, talk to us.
You know,
Where's the couch? Where's the couch?
I didn't do this, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about
Don't get too comfortable, everyone. Okay.
She's racing out. That's what she's doing.
I'm scared.
Look, I think
Oh, I love
I was
this. I'm
explaining. So
ready for this.
the way my brain works is I listened to the podcast. I originally, Noor went to an event that I also went to, and I was like, oh, I mentioned this podcast. Let me follow it up, and I listened to an episode. Addiction. I was like, what drug is this?
It's a new one. It's called TD. Just hit the market.
I almost left when I found out you guys were in the Southeast. But anyway, so I persevered through my distaste, and through listening to it, you know that I like something when I become obsessed with listening to all the episodes, right? I'm like 100 episodes in. I'm like, oh wow, yeah. Right?
Wait, how did you?
Yeah. So
That's actually very nice.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
yeah, there was a lot of long nights. So based off that, like I can't remember all of it, but I remember all of it, right? So
Nah, she doesn't know.
I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard, but I'm trying so hard.
No, we appreciate this.
I know, I actually love it.
So there was one person I was a little bit concerned about.
Oh.
And why are you so scared?
I was just about to go get something from the back. Damn well who it is. And I heard that part. Not worried.
You
Concerned about what
froze.
way?
Like there was things that like I noticed. I wrote notes about it. I was like, I'm really worried about this person because I think in terms of the whole group, I have so many questions. Yeah. I'm really concerned. I think, I'm going to not do a call out, but a call in. What's happening? What's going on?
Oh.
Are you looking at me?
Yeah, I'm looking at you. What's good?
Oh.
Wait,
Wait, that was the last person I thought it would be.
you.
I know.
I thought it was gonna be Noor.
It's you because
Break it down. He wasn't ready.
Very
Mr.
interesting.
This guy was sorry, like, I can't wait till Noor get finished, bro.
That's why I was like earlier to you. I was like, I'm gonna make sure I'm looking at the right direction.
Noor is straightforward, but yeah, that's why I didn't
Mr. Hiding in plain sight.
Whoa.
Yeah? Yeah, wearing a hoodie, glasses, no one knows what's going on. Yeah? Why after all these episodes that I've listened to, I don't know nothing about you?
Oh my God, this is so spot on.
Why?
She's actually
How many identities, Mr. Carmen San Diego, do you have?
She's spot on.
This is a good, this is,
Yeah, she's spot on. She's spot on.
You're good at your job.
Why?
You're very good at your job.
Why did you not have any social media handles until like 2 minutes ago? Why did you have 2 phones in high school? What's going on? Why?
No.
Why are you a
Listen.
CIA agent? How many families do you have?
Okay. You got excited. He's never done this before.
He's like, I've never been on this side before. I have so many, like, how are you a public figure but a private figure?
Wow.
All right, Kalows.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
I don't know what episode you started. But
I only know your mom speaks Arabic. That's all I know. Meanwhile, I know the sisters. I know about the engagement program. I know about his asshole. I know so many things. I know so many things about everyone.
Bro, his back's against the
No,
ropes.
he has nothing.
my answer is very simple.
Yeah, you're a CIA agent. I know.
Nah.
I know
My answer
already.
is very simple.
Yeah.
My private life is private.
Yep.
And when I'm talking on the podcast, I let people, like, what I disclose is what I want you guys to know. You know what I mean?
Is that a problem?
Yeah, is that a problem?
It's not a problem. I was curious because there's disclosures that you do make and there's disclosures that you don't make. So you say like a little bit, and you're like, "Oh, I forgot, I have to be private again." So I was like, "Why are you tantalizing everyone?"
He actually does that. Yeah.
He'd be like, "Yo, my friend said this other thing at the club the other day, but I'm not gonna say who the friend is or how I met the person or what's going on with the
Now,
person."
you know why,
But-
yeah? No, the reason for that particular example.
You don't want people to get in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this one doesn't care. Yeah.
I'll never say
Because this one time, I said something. No names or anything. I get a call the next day. Bro, did you talk about me?
Mad.
Yeah.
And I just...
Like, why'd you self-identify yourself? Actually wasn't, but Hit Dog's gonna holler, yeah?
There we go.
Maybe I was.
Definitely was.
I was.
Yeah.
But then I was like,
Which episode was it?
I wonder if they're watching this. But yeah,
It's all in good fun, good humor.
I actually didn't know that's how it came across.
Yeah?
Because
a
I
great
would have
take.
said Daniel.
You want me to go to the
What?
chief now? I can go to
I
the chief.
No, honestly, the private I would have
Nah, it's
Nah, I
definitely
feel
you,
like
bro.
people
You're
know-
an elusive character.
Yeah.
So Daniel's a little bit different.
Okay.
He's got his PR face on.
Oh.
He's like, I'm gonna tell you a little bit, but also I want a brand deal.
Oh.
Right. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I want a brand
she's
deal after
right.
the yeah, you know,
right.
he's Mr. Chief. I
Yeah.
laughed the loudest at the joke, even though I didn't say it, right? I'm not gonna say the problematic thing, but I'm gonna kiki.
Yeah.
Mr. Stir the pot.
She's too good, bro.
Mr. Stir the pot. Yeah. Oh wow, Noor, did you say that? Whoa. You know, I'm better than Noor. I didn't say it, but you know, I'm gonna laugh the loudest.
I live for the problem.
Hey, to be honest, I prefer mine over yours.
Wait. That's a great analysis because I do live for the problems, but do I want to start all of them? Not necessarily, no.
But you're just as problematic.
100%.
You're the bystander, the one that didn't do anything. Like,
You're not
wow.
an ally.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is you. Please,
Yeah.
do you have more?
I have everyone.
Okay.
Now I'm
yeah.
so curious.
Yeah?
These two.
Who do you want
Give
to
it
go
to
next?
Yeah, give it to me.
Nah. Say
Yeah?
Marwa
No,
last.
Noor is. I want to hear Noor's. I'm interested.
Oh, we kind of know the direction most
Marweezy.
likely. Like, no.
Go to Noor then.
Oh,
since
go
they
to
want
Noor?
to hear Noor.
I mean, the audience probably wants me to be last. But
Yeah.
we'll go.
No. Yeah, they would want him to be last.
All right,
No,
Marweezy.
last.
I can't make fun of it
She
because
starts crying.
No, you
yeah.
can't.
Definitely
also
can.
like everyone on this podcast, I identify myself the most with her.
She's woman.
And also she's a black girl who's like, you know, sitting and dealing with your shit.
Yeah.
You know, like it takes a lot. Like I get paid, but like
But she's just here for the vibes. Yeah,
All right, give it to me though.
you know,
Pause.
You what?
do you want to pause?
Definitely.
You know, you'd love to dig yourself into a little hole.
Oh.
Last episode, good example.
All the episodes are a good example.
Right, like, you actually, this is witchcraft.
As
This
I
is
was driving
witchcraft.
here, I was
Being PC, I thought I was, you know,
I
always.
was driving here, right? I was like, Mo easy. Changes her mind so easily. I was like, ooh, I got something here.
Maybe we're convincing.
Wow,
That's a cute.
I don't think it's that the fact that you guys are convincing, because I think you also a little bit like him, like public figure, private account, right? Like, and I think
Oh, yes, that's facts.
100%.
I would definitely agree with the
100%.
two.
I also, so as much as I make fun of her, I know why you would do it, because I think sometimes in this space you have to hold opinions that you might not necessarily have for the sake of the audience,
100%.
right? And I think that you guys take the easy approach and take the problematic view, and then she takes the audience, like the other side, right? Which is a lot harder because it's not as, you know, viral, Mr. 900,000 you know, views, but
So wake
it's
up calls.
The podcast has to grow. The podcast has to grow.
at your expense
Facts.
or at his hairline's expense.
My hairline is beautiful, bro. Turkey.
That's getting
6
added
months.
into the analysis.
Every single episode, bro.
I love this.
As a therapist, that's your job, right?
Yeah.
You have to listen and pay
I love
attention
that.
and
Yeah,
focus, you know, and know about Noor's insecurities and financial scarcity mentality.
Oh, that's a good one. Because I've actually been thinking about this. But
I mean,
So, I
obviously.
The joke that I made earlier, to reference my previous point in paragraph 3, right?
Hey,
About because the episode that stood out for me, I actually wrote a note as I was driving when I heard it, was when you said, it was only recently that I start drinking, I buy a drink with my meals. Because till now, I never did that, right? And then obviously you're Mr. Problematic, Mr. Viral Episode, Mr. Degrade himself as a joke for the you know, self-sacrifice.
honestly,
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Yeah, Jesus on the cross. You're like, oh, everyone, you know, as long as we get clips.
this work.
that's what it's working.
You think I'm not going to take the biggest cut once money starts coming in?
that was my joke.
We need to talk about this.
I know, considering the majority, I'm not going to agree. I don't think it was a smart business decision.
Oh, man.
I think there's the concern that you have around people's financial instability, I think comes from like a scarcity thing, right? So when you grow up and things are finite, like there's not enough, you kind of carry that even when you have enough, right? So like I grew up, for example, very poorest, right? And I carry that now. Like when I'm like budgeting your $5.95 episode when you're talking about your right? You carry that.
Yeah.
Even though you have it now, even though you could afford the $9, you're like, oh, so expensive. Why am I paying this price, right? And I think that can carry on because you carry the weight of like when things weren't secure, right? So I think that's the vibe that I got. So when you were kind of like, I don't know how people can live their life freely without buying 3 homes. I don't know how that works, right?
Bro,
Wow.
she's spot on, man.
Right?
Okay.
So and I think
Without buying
how do you not have 20K in your savings?
I agree with you. Both of you start laughing because your dream is to have 3 homes as well.
Well, the fact
buy and enjoy.
Always. Yeah, as do I. But yeah,
Whereas
continue, sorry.
I think he opposes you in that way because he's like, I want my holidays today. I actually wanted them yesterday. I don't want to work.
You know what's so funny about
That is him. That is him. though.
That's
That is
100%
him.
accurate. It's funny though, because when it comes to like personal life, I actually agree with you. Because I've actually been thinking about this.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is I didn't grow up poor. We definitely didn't grow up rich.
Yeah.
But I think because I've been thinking about this. Like, I think I have this thing within me that's like, don't F it up for your children and their children. You know? So I think that's where it comes from sometimes. I'm not so sure.
Security, right? It's
Security. Security is a very, very big thing in my life.
Yeah.
But then it's weird because like that's personal life. But then when it comes to things like business and the podcast and stuff, I'm the one that's always like, yo, let's spend this money, get better equipment. Daniel's like, I don't want to spend any money.
You want to talk about that? Do you guys want to do a couple session about it?
Because I'm like, wait, hold on. And yes, no, definitely does say
Because
that.
I'm always like, yo, let's
I think we're
get
like,
cameras.
everyone here is like,
Conservative.
let's
Hey, I
think
don't feel like
about it.
spending.
Should we rush
Hey.
into it? Let's get a bit of money for the business first. This guy said, well, we might as well we got this much.
For me, I'm like,
Just
you
do
got to
it.
spend money to make money.
Yeah, you do.
And
Yeah.
we're like, oh, you can save
I
money
don't have an answer.
So there's like
No.
a level of flexibility that you have
in business.
in a contained space. And the contained space is the podcast, right?
Right.
Whereas your actual, like,
Yeah,
your
personal.
real life.
Yeah, no, why is
Because
that?
there's parameters to this. That's how I would say. Like there's parameters to this that
yeah,
you can be like, oh, I can move around in that. And I'm sure you're not saying like 50K, that's it, spend it right
Yeah,
now,
no,
right?
no.
Or let's go into debt. But there's parameters
Yeah.
to where you're able to feel like that you can be flexible around.
Yeah.
But in your actual life, you're thinking 3 generations,
Yes.
right? So, and I think that's where the need to have security to that level is, to me, I see it in migrant clients all the time, like in myself. And like I came to this country as a refugee, which is a lot different to other people who came to this country as economic migrants, for example, or coming through like partnerships and all that kind of stuff, right? But I definitely see in the migrant experience the fear of security and it not being like forever, right? Like, oh, things are, regardless if I came either way, it's still an up, right? To get here and to have security. And it feels finite that it's gonna go. So I like kill myself to get myself to that point. When like if you actually really look at it in the big picture of things, the fact that you're here already has changed the direction for your next 3 generations.
Definitely.
Right? The quality of life that you've had in one generation has already created that change. But the fear of going back to that is intergenerational. That's something that, you know, my mum carries, like, you know what I mean? That people before us, and we can pass on to our kids, you know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah.
With the content, or not content, I just read that word. With the podcast one, it's probably because I've always said this, that I don't have such a strong generational mindset. But with this, I definitely want to see this as something that is like impacting like and beyond. Like I've always said that it would be dope to become the studio, whatever, and everyone's content is literally coming through this like pipeline. You know what I'm saying? Of
So when you said generational, did you say like your kids, or you were saying like
I
7 kids?
mean, I said it like I always talk about like,
Daniel doesn't care about his
the
grandchildren
grandchildren.
as much as the rest of us.
Or leaving something for
Because like
them.
you've probably heard me say this before. It's like my grandkids. I might not know my grandkids or great grandkids, but they're gonna know
Don't
me.
know me.
That's always my approach. For him, he's like, to be honest, like, I don't know them.
My
They
kids
don't know me
my
either.
grandkids. It's fair enough too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there seems to be like an individual kind of legacy that you want to have within your
Yeah,
own internal family, like that. Like whereas
now that
Daniel
you're
doesn't do
saying it all, it's like I feel like I also recognize like other aspects of it because I'm like, in my mind, it's like you're trying to make life as easy as possible for yourself first and foremost, and your like partner and all this stuff, but then also like the kids and the kids to come, and then for me, it's like because of like if I have kids, like chances are they're gonna be half black, right? And so because my partner's black. And so it's like...
So glad that you clarified.
You know what I mean?
We're still in kids, are we? What's going on?
It's like... What's going on? What I'm saying...
1 second, child protection.
What I'm saying...
She said, can you repeat that song?
What I'm saying...
Saying it into the camera.
Is like, in my mind, it's like, that's already going to be a harder experience for them in Australia, right? So it's like, if I can make the things that I can make easier, I can make them even easier. You know what I mean? So then it's like...
To what extent?
Exactly. To what extent, of course. But
to the extent where you don't have pleasure in the now?
No, I refuse to live that way, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of
what
what...
drinks
Is it changed, man?
Yes, two Fantas.
It has water, clearly.
It comes with the meal, no?
You don't understand how excited I was when I saw this on the table. When I go,
You're like, free?
the kids were lit.
My grandkids are going to experience the pleasure of this.
The assessment is on point.
It actually is.
You have more?
Yeah.
What about as a group?
Oh,
Because you have individuals, but as a group, do you go like, okay...
Because you said I'm problematic or self-degrading or whatever the word is.
So as a group, do you go...
Oh, you heard that, did you?
I said that one out loud?
Sorry, I thought that was my thoughts. This is not an
Intrusive
internal...
thoughts.
It's not internal dialogue. I think I always find it interesting because this is a comedic podcast, right?
Yeah.
And if we're still on the bands, if we're still laughing,
Yeah.
you're the only one self-degrading yourself in the space, right? Like it's jokes on your hairline, and not the chief's hairline.
I mean, it's pretty eye.
The edges are doing
alright.
the most. And I think like I always find that as someone who also self-degrades as a form of connection. Right, so I know I do that as a way of being like, so we're all gonna laugh, and if I'm okay to laugh at me, and it means everyone's laughing, then that's chill, it's vibes, it's cute. But it means everyone's laughing at me, and I'm, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's fun. Okay. It's funny, like, because all these things, I feel like
Sorry, why am I giggling? For those that don't know, we're sitting right next to each other.
All your listeners are like, damn, this therapist kind of rude, man.
I feel really bad that I'm not looking him straight in the eyes.
You're not.
Say it with your chest.
She's looking away. She's looking away.
Like, I think where I get that from is because I genuinely love comedy and I love making people laugh. Like, that's like, whenever we talk about like our personal, what's our thing with the podcast, like what do we want it to be? For me, it's always like, I want people to be able to have a laugh and feel like they're part of the conversation when they're driving, right? And like, I've realized the comedians that I love the most by far are the ones that are able to make fun of everything about themselves.
Such as?
Whether it's Dave Chappelle, right?
Dave Chappelle makes fun of himself.
Yeah, I think he makes fun of his experience.
I don't know.
I feel like he makes fun of
But
like.
he
I would have said
Kevin
Kevin Hart more
Kevin
so than
Hart.
Dave
Kevin
Chappelle.
Hart.
That's his whole stick.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Hart's whole thing is just him and his family, which is
I love
safe,
that.
and it's
Yeah.
also like a level of security that he has,
Well, that's the
which is
thing.
reflected in
Yeah,
you.
and I think the other thing though it also allows because I will admit like I will say things that are problematic. Like if it's just a clip, right? You'd be like, this guy's an asshole, right? But in the context of the full thing, it's funny, and the thing is like for me to start with making fun of myself makes people go like, okay, he's not just out here trying to spray at everyone. You know what I mean?
He's willing to take it.
Exactly.
Too.
It's the same reason. Like for example, I love comedians that will make fun of. Let's say they make fun of what?
I said everybody.
Everybody. Yeah, literally everybody. But it's like, let's say they make fun of, I don't know, Jamaican people, but they actually really understand Jamaican culture. They've taken time. It's actually not offensive to Jamaicans at that point. You know what I mean? It's very offensive when like people just go, I'm going to make a joke about Asians. But then it's like, wait, Vietnamese are so different to Japanese.
So do you guys believe in punch down, punch up kind of in comedy? So do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. But expand. Like I know the concept of punching down, punching up, but what do you mean by specifically in comedy?
So like in a comedic performer, so let's say someone like Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, you know, Small, whoever we're talking about, punching down would refer in terms of their identity, someone who has a more marginalized identity, so making fun of them. So Dave Chappelle's the most notorious one, who punches down on trans community, or people of color who are queer, all that kind of
funny.
stuff. But that's why
I
it's
thought the
funny.
jokes were funny, but I can understand why people would be offended.
So so there's this whole conversation around punching down and punching up, right?
Yeah.
So it's more funnier.
So if a trans person was
So punching up, because of the way your privilege is, means that you can make, like how I would make fun of a white person. I can make fun of white people because I experience racism daily, right? Yeah. So like it kind of, you know, it's funny. It can be funny, and I'm not harming that person in that way because of the way where I sit in terms of that.
So I'm a yes and no,
Yeah.
because inherently what's wrong with that is you've removed the power from the individual to actually find those things funny. You know what I mean? Like
Or
you
communities.
immediately dictate the community's experience by saying you're punching down. It's like, what do you mean?
So it's not that not talking about them. It's about not making them the butt of the joke. So that's why. So you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not, so it's like we can talk
Yeah.
about the community, but it's not. They're not the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like if every single joke circles to this one community, that's where it gets weird. That's why even like, I think we have said this with the Dave Chappelle thing. Like, if he made one special that was like about, like, you know, he was talking about like the alphabet community, blah, 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 whatever.
He has.
Right? Yeah. Like, if he made one,
Like, if it was just that the one
Just
compared to
one?
like how many there are now.
it would be like, okay, that one was about that, right? But then it's like when, I think it was the third one, it's like, okay, like, come on, man.
It's a bit
Like,
much.
there's a lot of people to make fun of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's where it's like, I can see how people be like, yo, that's too much. But then it's like, I think for me, it's like, one of my favorite comedians is Andrew Schultz. And it's like, you watch his special, he's like, he's a white guy, American, Scottish roots, right? So as white as you get pretty much, right? But he will, like, his thing is, I love New York, right? And the diversity of New York. And so when you watch him do his crowd work and stuff, it's like, he'll make fun of Indians, but he'll make fun of Punjabs specifically, right? And then he'll make fun of people from Haiti. And then he'll make fun of white people. And then, and so it's like, everyone is laughing, and even he explains it this way. It's like, you can't sit there and be offended about trans people when the trans person is laughing at my show. You know what I mean?
Also the impact, right? So I think that like the impact of what you're doing to the community that you're doing it
That's a
for.
fair point.
So like I think for me, what like I was a Dave Chappelle stan growing up. Like I was like, it was my age when he kind of had his Chappelle show and all that kind of stuff. And some of his comedies I can like off the top of like I can say off
you know
the
the
heart.
lines, yeah.
Yeah, 100%, right? And I think it really lost it for me because I think my overall view is I think comedians often rise to fame is their relatability and how poignant their jokes are in the moment. So my opinion is I feel that a lot of stand-up comedy is not meant to last the test of time. It's supposed to be funny now, right? It's supposed to be, so that's why when you go back and comedians
Eddie
like, yeah, I
Murphy
wouldn't,
especially,
yeah.
Eddie
Literally, I was
Murphy is
thinking of,
a perfect example of it. Cat Williams is a perfect example of someone that's like, yeah, I just want to make those jokes now. Yeah, it was funny then, I didn't know, or whatever his justification is. It's like, I'll just move on and I won't. These Samira are really good examples as well. Like, I think the way I view comedy is it's funny now in the context of whatever it is. And if it wasn't funny now, then it's most likely...
It's not going to be funny.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not supposed... It's supposed to be a commentary about a pocket of time, whatever that time is. And for me, Dave Chappelle, he really lost me when and my perspective of this is that I felt that he didn't like to be critiqued. He didn't like, because he was seen as the witty, edgy comedian who was able to look at things in a progressive way. So a lot of
I did think this
at
thought
the
as well.
time, a lot of the things that the jokes that he made was challenging, and the fact
Right.
that he like turned away, like you think of that, he turned away X amount of millions of dollars and fled to Africa and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, now that you kind of know that, you know, a lot of the people that were writing with him are actually not black, they were like white people, it's fine. But now that he is a multi-millionaire who lives in Utah, who's, you know, who's not relatable and cannot relate to us, I think that's why his jokes are not funny, because he's missing the mark. Whereas bringing this back to like relevant comedians now.
Also, we went to the show recently and Daniel slapped his knee so much he shot himself.
And that show was good.
I can tell because the whole podcast was you being like my favorite. I stand him. I was
to be honest,
pulsating.
for me,
I'm a fan.
Dave Chappelle's always been the GOAT.
Yeah.
Right? And I even told these guys, I was like, this show is going to determine if it's actually the GOAT.
Nothing happened to him. He's not cancelled. Like he's still
Yeah,
making
but
money.
I went there.
Like-
Like sometimes it's different when you're watching it live. You know?
Yeah, like Chris Rock was one
Chris
that
Rock,
disappointed
I was
us.
there. I was watching his stuff. I was like, man, this is good. And then I was watching Chris Rock.
Chris Rock
in
is not
person.
relatable as well.
In person.
He only became more relatable now because of this incident what happened with Will Smith. Because people can relate to what it feels like to be publicly embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie,
let's talk about that after this, but
the latest special, he was actually talking about the slap. I don't know if you guys
That was
watched
good.
it.
Yeah,
I
Lee
like
was horrible.
Good.
Wait, Chris.
There was such great mixed reviews. I love this. Please, everyone
Okay,
tell us.
yeah, let's get into
Yeah,
it.
I just heard
Chris
this guy say
Rock.
good, he said terrible.
Wait, what are you talking about? Latest special? What do you mean by that?
Like he just dropped one.
The one that he did live on Netflix.
Yeah.
He did live, yeah.
Came out
yeah.
like last
And
week.
he,
Oh, I didn't see
2
that.
weeks
he
ago.
actually addressed the slap. He spent like a good
I thought
10
you were talking
minutes
about
on
what we
that.
spent.
No,
I was
no,
like,
no.
get
Oh,
off
wait,
the
no, that's
stage.
trash.
Yeah.
But you're right, they saw like a lot of mixed reviews on that.
Okay.
What was who watched it?
I watched it.
I never watched the full thing, but I did see decent clips. I did see the full Will Smith thing as well.
I did.
I
You watched the
I
full Will
enjoyed
Smith
it.
one?
The full segment.
Yeah.
of the-
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
You watched the whole thing, right? What was your views?
Not gonna lie, the first half was a little bit funny. Like, when I say
Dead.
funny, I mean like wasn't slapping. You know what I mean?
It's a repeat of some jokes, yes. As
No, I
someone
think-
who follows Chris Rock and seen him live,
Yes.
repetition
Especially
of
was talking about his
all the
divorce,
jokes, yeah.
the divorce, talking about his kids,
His daughter, yep.
Yeah, all that. I was like, man, I'm pretty sure I heard this. before, but
Respectability
I don't know, I
stuff.
don't know if it was like the live show or just.
That was because it was the same thing.
It was the same thing.
tour. And
But
then
it sometimes felt like I
Yeah.
heard this a long time ago. I was like, okay. But the second half was beautiful.
What was like the last 20 minutes, right? The last 15 minutes?
Yeah,
The-
like
specific
like,
to
like the 20,
Will
25
Smith
minutes. Will
and-
Smith?
yeah.
Oh, man.
Right.
That was good.
I think he rushed it. I think
Wait,
he was
rushed it a full hour?
I think he was nervous. No, that last
yeah,
half.
that segment.
I think that segment there,
segment-
that last 20 minutes,
was too fast.
like I think
he
there-
messed up one of the jokes.
He messed up the
Yeah.
jokes. He was nervous. I think you could
it's
tell in the
live, right?
delivery. It's live. And it's also like it is what it is. I think he's a very smart comedian. He's also really good at what he does, and he's
Good businessman.
great businessman as well, right? My experience of that, watching that, I was kind of like, okay, this is fine. This is nothing. Wow. I think is it Marlon Wayans? I think
Marlon.
He did a better job.
Thank you.
Yeah, he did.
He did a
definitely
better
did.
job.
Ah, yes. I
and
watched that part too.
I think the reason why he did a better job because he was able to like I know I liked his, even though his comedy is up and down for me.
Yeah.
I think he spoke about the issue in a very smart and funny way, and the delivery of it was smart because he made the whole issue about himself. Like, and it was I with Chris Rock. Are we going to get into the slap? Or what's your thoughts on
go
this?
for it. Right,
What's
right.
your thoughts on the slap? As someone who got
Because
called
it's
by
actually-
a journalist to talk about it.
It's
when
actually
it
funny how
happened.
you bring up both of the situations because I watched both of them and
Yeah.
both of them delivered the same joke very differently, right? One of them was able to obviously talk about it because I've seen what happened.
Another
Then
one was
Chris
triggered.
Rock-
Was
and
hard.
Chris Rock was like, so that's why I think he was looking nervous to talk about it. Like, not nervous to talk about
Yeah.
it, but like,
There's something attached to
yeah,
it.
there's something attached. But Loki was so emotional. Like, when he said the B word like 10 times, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. But I'm like, yeah, nah, this guy.
He still needs to
Yeah,
unpack it.
nah.
He's still got to go and unpack it.
Like,
somewhere.
Loki was hurt.
Yeah,
It was
and
hurt.
I think like, what's your thoughts on this slap situation?
slap.
Like, I think he's allowed to be hurt, right?
Yeah,
like,
definitely. I think it's a
my
very
G was at
humiliating
work
thing to do.
and he was doing his job and he got slapped.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were about to say Will Smith was allowed to be hurt. But I mean, yes,
I
of
think
course.
they're all
as well.
hurt, but
Yeah.
this is why I love Grey.
Probably why I shouldn't be sleeping with anyone else, and you shouldn't be sleeping on us while
That
you're married.
has nothing to do with.
That has a lot. It literally
His wife
a lot.
has look. Let's discuss.
Dissect one by one.
Let's dissect.
Yeah, let's undress as she did. What?
Okay, yeah. Continue.
Okay, so we're not gonna shame Jada for being in a consensual relationship
Exactly.
with another person.
Thank you.
We can be a bit concerned about the fact
Concerned is a
of
great
his
way to put it,
age
huh?
and the
Oh,
power
oh,
dynamics
oh,
that
there's-
existed
yeah.
within
There we
that.
go.
Yeah.
And
That's the
I'm
thing.
more than that, but I'm not gonna slut shame her because she decided
even
to
forgot about
have an
that.
open relationship. But there's a
I wouldn't
concern.
even call her a slut. I wouldn't do that.
I would be
Entanglement
Why'd
they
you do
had.
just wanted the commenters to know what to call you. But
This is the label for Noor. Right there.
just so you
That's
know,
mad.
yeah. Google enmeshment while you're there.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
There's a
Carrot, yeah.
concern. So let's unpack this, right?
Okay.
So
I think it is genuinely unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it comes to like your foundations, all these principles, all this stuff. I can accept anyone's life. Be in an open marriage if you want to, all this stuff. But I think we can genuinely accept that there's a more healthy way to do life and there's a more unhealthy way to do life, right?
Or there are greater complexities.
Or
certain
things that will
situations.
complicate your
But
life
are
or
we
whatever.
talking about the slap? Because
No,
that-
This is preface.
so we're starting with Will Smith. It
Okay,
sounds
I'm
like
starting
yeah.
with their
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
full stop,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you an example.
What's the issue? Okay, no,
I'll give you an
need
example
to
what I mean by that,
connect
right?
it directly.
Yes.
So right now,
Yes.
like genuinely, I don't really partake in drugs at all,
Yep.
I
right?
said really. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't.
You don't?
I don't partake
What do
in
you
drugs.
classify as a drug?
Anything that can alter your mind state, right?
Yeah, so Panadol, right?
I don't know if that alters your mind state.
Funny ass.
But we could all say, it's a fair general statement to say, you are better off not doing cocaine than doing it.
In what context? Because
Every
if I want to
context,
get
every
lit,
context.
cocaine
Okay, you want to get
isn't-
lit, want to
cocaine
shoot
isn't-
fentanyl, wasn't it?
No, because again, here's your sweeping statements that you make, right?
Okay.
I think there is context for everything. I'm gonna relay you back because you're really good at going so far from the topic, right? So the main topic here is Will Smith,
I
right?
know, that's, and I was
Right
going to
now,
bring it back.
I'm not sure you were, right?
She said,
You're not the bring the back daddy, right?
It's the bag, daddy, bro.
catchphrases.
If we bring it to the thing, Chris Rock made a really good comment. The comment was, if you bring your relationship to a public forum and discuss it, now you give me the free license to discuss it because I'm not discussing something that was private, right? So, your private relationship that you have, you're not talking about it. So it's rude if I talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you're here, like he said, crying about what's going on, it gives me some type of license to talk about it, especially as a public commentator and you both as public figures, right? So is that what you're referring to?
I was just going to say, like...
Because I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to get the comment section on your side.
They're like,
You're like,
already.
let me drown. Let me drown. Please, let me drown.
I like it here.
What I was going to say is I genuinely don't think it is the healthiest way to live your life. And I
In
will
an
say
open
as
relationship?
a man, even if you are doing the same in my eyes, I will honestly say, like, having partners outside of your partner in marriage is not a smart way to live.
For
Right.
you.
For me. Yeah.
For you.
And I would honestly say every single man I know would be insecure knowing that another man is sleeping with his wife.
Incorrect statement.
without consent.
Incorrect statement.
Every single man I know.
Oh,
That's a correct.
man,
Every
you know?
single man
sorry.
I know. Yeah.
I just said every single man full stop. And I was like,
Every single man I know.
rewind.
And I would honestly say,
because you most likely surround yourself with people who think like you, right? Who have the same kind of thinking around.
yeah.
Because I think, and that's
and what
your
I'm saying is, like, I
experience,
genuinely think that stuff kind of breeds resentment, breeds hurt. Now when people start talking about it, and I guess this is where it's about bringing it out in public, right? Is, okay, maybe you are okay with that in your private life, whatever. But then once you start nonstop hearing everyone's opinion about it, right? A lot of people that share the sentiment that I share when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? Even if you at first you were like, yeah, this is cool, whatever, because he was also sleeping with many women. People know this, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like the
No,
open
that's why
relationship's
I'm not
an
saying
issue.
it's on her, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm saying once everyone starts talking about it, that is gonna drive you crazy. Also because, and now this can be a whole misogyny conversation. It's like everyone focuses
But
on
you
her
need to
thing, not
you need
his.
to rewind a little bit. There are a couple who purposefully do this. Like there is like
Purposely talk about this stuff.
yeah, like they
Right? Yeah,
purposely
I know,
bring
I know.
people's
Exactly.
stuff in. Like they're like, hey, come into my house. Like there's a level of like Vore's exhibitionism that they engage in.
I agree.
Which is willing. Like they're doing it purposefully. The
yeah.
actual Red Table Talk was in their house.
Okay, exactly, right? But then it's like, I don't think that slap comes from just a place of, yo, you made fun of my wife's appearance.
Well, that's
Because
the reason why I'm like,
everyone
let's talk
there
about
is
it.
getting made fun of.
That's
right?
why I'm like, let's talk about
Which means
it.
it has to have come from years of, hey, I'm not going to be the butt of the joke anymore.
I genuinely don't know
no.
where it comes from. I don't know if it's
Have you read his book?
To move like that.
Have you read
to
his
that
book?
No.
But that's what
Honestly,
I'm saying. I
lost
know we're all
interest after that
human,
book.
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. There's a lot more to that because we're definitely all human. So that is a possibility. I'm not going to rule that possibility out that it might be years of da-da-da-da. But it's like existing in that space for so long, and the existing in that space being the income of your life as well. That's just how you live your lifestyle. I don't know how that is what pushes you over the edge. When there's X, Y, Z that could have done that for so many times. And that's why I said I know how.
The one thing that is the most, I would say for most people, and now obviously Hollywood relationships, we don't know what the thing is, whatever, but most people would say that their marriage is the most important thing in their life, right? It was the thing
but when
that
you look at
hold
their
dear.
situation,
I know, it might not be,
you're
right?
making
That's what I'm
opinions
saying.
based on like what your experience is.
Absolutely.
Because I think like
don't know
you
Well,
don't
what
know
does the
them.
book say? Because
what does the book say
it
about
looks
him?
like there
So-
might have been a reference there.
So I think
His parents
so.
sent him
This
to
is my
LA.
this is my take, right? My take is I love the grey in this because both of them are coming into that space with baggage,
Yes.
right? And they're coming into that space with history. So so if I'm looking from
Both being Will and Jada. Or
no,
Will and Chris.
Will and Chris. Because I think Jada's been placed into something that she shouldn't be. And I think that's a racialized and a gendered experience that she's going through by being a black woman who gets the fall for things that she literally didn't do in that space, right? He lost control in that moment, not Jada, right? Even though she was the butt of the joke, right? Yeah. So I think like, and she said like she made the apology and all that kind of stuff before, like this is not my involvement. I didn't want it to happen, all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm taking Jada out because I don't think she has a space here, right?
So you don't think Jada looked at Will like, what you gonna do?
I don't think that happened.
I don't think
Bruh,
that's what
Even if she did, it's his loss of
yeah.
control, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if she said get him, like it doesn't matter. Like,
Said, what would Tupac do?
Nah, honestly, because the first clip you see Will Smith dying and then
Bro,
gives
we
him
don't-
I think
we
he
actually
looked
don't have a
over.
clip.
No,
I
We
think
don't
he
even
looked
have that.
over and
Nah,
he thought
nah,
that she was
That's
upset.
stills. We don't have that. We actually don't have what actually went down.
so if we go back to the book, right? So I haven't read the whole complete book. I read like little snippets, right? But my understandings of some of the things that he wrote about is that a lot of his trauma is around his father losing control and family violence, right? And a lot of the thing that's motivated him in his career, because Will is also a very unique character, and the way he's engaged in Hollywood is in a very unique way. And I would kind of go towards like the toxic positivity is how I would describe how Will presents himself now anyway, of like this, you can change your life, everything's great, everything's fine, oh my God, look at me. And I think the level of like, he talks about like having to have so much control over himself because he's so afraid that he's going to lose control and be like his dad who just has violent emotional outbursts and people have to witness that, like he had to witness that. And I just looked at a man who literally did that. And I go, oh, like not just the therapist in me, but like me as an individual is like, I hope he's okay, because that was so far out of, like he was crying through his acceptance speech. Like this is the pinnacle of his career and the highest thing that he's been like trying so hard to get. And that he completely, his worst fear came true, that he's on a public forum where he's violently hit someone and then in this weird way continued on. And then like that's forever marked, that moment's immortalized in everyone's collective memory. Just kind of like he's kind of
that's
replayed.
like, that's
his
always
own-
going to be the most thing we remember him.
Yeah, and like maybe 20 years
crazy.
later we might slowly like dilute it, but
Forget
right
about
now
it, yeah.
Will Smith, the number one actor, like everyone's like it's like 2-3 generations of people know him, right? So I think of that and I'm holding that and what that must be, because I don't think that's something that he's proud of.
Yeah.
And if I was someone who knew him, I would be like, I'm concerned for you for that. To do it in such an unsafe space as well, like not like we should be hitting anyone, but like in that white space where white people were critically analyzing this and engaged. And like,
it would have been
shut
really
up.
bad if Chris fought back. That would have been a really bad
and
look.
then you talk about Chris, right, on the other side, right? Someone who is talked about in his, I'm not sure if he's got a book, but I think he's talked in the past about like,
Everybody hates Chris.
well, that's his TV show, yes, but he's talked about how he's been bullied and how he has a history of. One thing I found out about him was that he struggles to read people's emotions or like and engage in that way. Like he has some type of neurodiversity around that, and he has trauma around being the smallest guy. And he talks about it in his stand up about like look at Will, look at me, right? Like I am tiny, I'm a small guy, and how many times in my life have I been the small guy that's gotten picked on? And I've gone into comedy so I don't get picked on, and here I am at like a really high point in my career doing this really big thing, and yes, I made an insensitive joke, and I should reap the consequences of that joke as should I have been assaulted in that way? And should I have been assaulted publicly as well? Because that's a different layer of like trauma, right? That it's immortalized. And then on the third layer is, and everyone else is defending the person that like hurt me, right? Like how rough is it that everyone's now like defending the person that literally slapped, and I had to continue working, which is a relatable experience. Like how many times do people talk about like at work, this person said the maddest, rudest thing, and then everyone laughed it off, and I'm sitting there mad as hell that this person did this awful thing to me. So I'm sitting there, and when I was watching him, listening to his stand up, I thought, what would have made the stand up slightly like just like elevated better for me is if he had that nuanced thing that like, and then you guys all laughed at him laughed at me when that happened, and I have to do like that would have like that level of like insight and awareness to me would have like escalated the stand up a little bit and made it just a little bit more critical and like a little bit more interesting. So when I look at that scenario and I think of like these two black men who have gone through this awful thing because of their awful experiences, and they are accountable to those experiences, and then to have happened in such a white space in their workplaces, I just go like, everyone's a loser. Like everyone here has lost. Like
this is why I'm thinking there's so much more deeper to that. I'm like, what? I just don't know. I know people can lose control. Like I said it, I go back to that again. But I'm just like, after existing in that space.
Doesn't matter. Like no matter what the thing would have been, like maybe Chris Rock whispered to him right before, I'm gonna hate your guts. Like doesn't matter. Like like in the end of the day, the trigger point for him is a personal trigger point. Like it doesn't actually like it's like, you know, if you see that happen in the outside world, like, so the thing that I say is like, when people talk about mental health to me, I'll be like, or like a well-being experience, I'll be like, yeah, mental health contextualizes and helps us understand what's happening, but doesn't justify it. Right? So if someone has a particular diagnosis, it doesn't justify the reason they stabbed me, but I know that they might be high and that has altered what's going on for them. But they,
because I was actually going to ask a question, because it's so hard, because you're right, like everything is grey, or the majority of things are grey, right? But then it's like, whenever we do the whole, like let's just in this context, right? Will, you were wrong, but the reason he was wrong is because he's experienced. It's like, don't we just negate the hurt that other person is experiencing, because we're always giving a reasoning behind the actions, right? Because like, at what point do we just go,
you're wrong?
Like, I mean, graphic example, and I don't want to get into it too much, but it's like, let's say a assault victim, right, then assaults someone, and I'm talking about like sexual assault here, right? Like, as crazy as it sounds, in that case, I don't care about your history. I only care about this person that's been assaulted. For me.
But yes, so, and I think as someone who worked in a prison, right? So I worked in a women's prison, and my role in that space was a trauma counselor, and that's why I specialize in. I'm a trauma therapist. So I worked with people who have perpetrated crime, but also have been victims of crime and victims of traumatic experiences. So they, you know, that trope of hurt people, right? And me as the trauma worker needs to be able to see their humanity in that.
Of course, yeah.
And I think whereas the mother of the victim who doesn't need to do that. That's why I always get mad, right? In like these crime shows when they ask the mom, what do you think? I'm like, the mom always going to defend their child. She's going to be like, I never thought my kid would die. He's a sweetheart. Like, don't ask the mom. No, don't ask the family of the accused if they're like, no, my son's innocent. Like, of course they're going to say that, right? Because that's what role are you playing in this space, right? So in the Will Smith, the last situation, like in when do we have to like, we can understand behavior, we're not going to justify the behavior. So someone needs to understand and humanize him. And I humanize him because when white people are piling onto them, I'm like, no, I'm going to protect him from white people. And I'm going to be like, no, actually, let's humanize this and let's have it. But if I'm talking to Chris, I'm like, yo, that was
tripping, bro.
Yeah, that was awful. Like, you know what I mean? And I think like, know your place and your lane of when
that makes
the
sense,
severity of each thing is going to happen.
But how do you do that because you clearly not studied, but you kind of looked into it, you know what I mean? Looked at the book, understood the references, understood Chris Rock's,
Source or something.
yeah, now what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about for someone who doesn't really understand, haven't read the book, just saw that happen? Like, how do you turn around and say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
How do I? So
yeah.
what? So what's the question?
So like, because you were saying, looking at him a certain way because you understand why he did a certain thing, all assuming, right?
Yep.
Because you took the time to understand that. But I'm just saying, for us, who just watched the Oscars and just saw that happen,
Yeah.
then we're just gonna look at it as like, okay, cool. Like, this guy just not even lost control, or not even this is what Will Smith is actually afraid of, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty deep. But for us, it's more of like, well,
Not everything's gonna be deep for everyone. Yeah. Someone's gonna be like, "Yo, that was awful."
Yeah. Point blank.
I think it's when we get to a particular like extremity, like Will Smith should die, as a, like, you know what I mean? Like, well, no, should he like?
should they come out and say, this is why I did this? Like, Will Smith come out and explain, rather than us coming up with our own conclusion.
Well, I think the situation is that you're not meant to see people's situations. These type of things are meant to typically be handled in public.
Yes.
And so just the nature of that is unnatural anyway at the core. So when you're saying, should these people have to come out and explain actions, explain this, that, it's like, naturally we're not even meant to be observing.
But celebrity in
private
general,
that's
yes.
not a natural
Not good for the
context.
brain.
But that's
I
even
think-
more reason to why.
Sorry, I'm gonna.
say,
I went quiet because I wanted to think of the answer. What I wanted to say, and I think if you do something publicly, I think the forum in which you create hurt, in my personal belief, is the forum in which you have to mend that hurt.
Yeah, definitely.
Now it's the choice of the person that you've hurt or the communities that you hurt and how they accept or engage in it. But if I on my public page I've written stuff about your podcast that's not true and it's quite hurtful, and then I apologize to you privately, but it's like no one knows.
It's still
Damage is done, yeah.
So we need to then go back to that forum and be like publicly that, and then I need to publicly take that back. So hence why Will Smith and Jada both made those public statements, because it was done publicly.
100%.
Like, yeah.
What about now private situations that are brought to light by other parties?
Okay. I love this. Give me an example.
Damn.
Yeah.
But if they tell
You know when you have
me,
a good idea but not a good example.
Yeah.
well, repeat your question.
getting
'Cause
half
I might
marks.
repeat it because
Because I agree with that.
might have a scenario.
What I was
for you.
saying, so that I'll
So,
go back to
I'll
us.
give you an example.
Okay, you got an
Oh, so you
example.
got an example.
She's got
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So let's say there's a couple who have a podcast, right? So I think let's say, like, think of any couple, not just you guys. So like in general, who break up privately
Yeah.
and they've posted on socials and stuff like that, right?
About it.
No, just like
them
them,
in relationship. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Love you, Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah.
And then now they break up, and they, should I now publicly state that I'm broken up? Do I make it obvious? Like, that's a good example. That's what that you were saying. Like, so do I now delete my pictures and clean my timeline? Do I throw a post and be like, F this, still a single life for me? Like, how should I be moving?
So private situation.
How do I engage in it publicly?
How do you engage in it publicly? If you've been divulging in it publicly, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, so there's a level of like disclosure that's happened publicly. So I know you can't relate because of your private Instagram, but like for those,
That's crazy.
but think of your multiple identities. And,
Pick one right now.
pick one of your families. I don't know where they are, where you exist in the world, right?
But see, with that one is slightly different because you've personally divulged into private matters. I'm saying like a private matter that you have not disclosed. So
Someone else
let's say
did.
you've been outed, leaks, etc., and now you have to publicly manage.
So someone's cheated, and now it's publicly available, right? And that's not something.
Okay, wait,
Sorry,
hold on.
are you
Here's
still
the
talking about
example.
celebrities though?
Yes. In
So
celebrity
like,
situations.
let's say,
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I just answered.
I
I don't know. I just said yes. I don't know.
If we just rewind the tape,
I don't know. Kevin Hart's group chat with the boys leaks, and he's been making whatever, use some slurs.
He had that.
I was gonna use that as an
He had
example,
that
yeah.
situation with
But that was
the
public.
slurs, but he also had that situation where he was being
tweets, about the dollhouse and stuff. Or,
No.
or
He had
JK?
that situation
JK,
with the
bro.
where people were
car
trying
crash
to No. He was cheating on his wife.
blackmail.
What has this man done in his life that we can't?
Is he down in
Yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they were trying to what is it,
Blackmail him.
him,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's, the private thing is coming up.
And then he brought it up.
Yeah,
He brought
yeah.
it
So it's kind of
himself,
like, is that what you're referring to?
Look, yeah, I've lost exactly where I was going.
So many dilemmas.
But essentially, right, I was just saying, so we have
Segue.
one situation, I know, yeah, we just have one situation where
Nice save.
That's what
I
I'm
knew that's what I was trying to do.
Hey, to be
I knew that's what I was trying to do, but I wanted to finish my sentence.
No,
we got like 10 minutes
I
for the
know,
segue,
yeah.
but
But
let me see
obviously,
again.
he was talking about public situation, you publicly address it. I mean, that's what we were talking about, sorry.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, that makes sense. But I'm like, now, yeah, private situations where it's like you actually weren't trying to bring this up to the rest of the world. Rest of the world or society or your community
Drake and
is
his
talking
baby.
about XYZ, right?
Trying to hide my
That's
baby
a-
from
that's
the
a
And it's
very
like,
good
and I feel like most times I end up maybe not respecting that individual. Maybe let me flip it. I end up seeing that person seems happier when they just don't address it because like this was not I didn't want to bring this up.
Yeah.
You brought this up and you guys are discussing it, but I'm going to keep pushing with my life. And I feel like those individuals always end up just looking a lot happier with how they navigate the situation. So I'm just like, yeah, when things are private, brought out, and the rest of the world is discussing your situation that you weren't ready to discuss yet, yeah, is that something you're also now meant to just address publicly because everyone else is talking about it?
Basically, not that this is ever going to happen, but you two, separate ways. Not going to happen again.
Yeah.
And then Noor goes off and says, oh, yeah, by the way, they're not together anymore. So then now, is that the kind of situation? Now you kind of, when someone comes up to you and say, hey, is that true? So then now you're kind of forced to bring it up. Is that what you're saying?
It's different if Noor has gone and told one person directly.
But I'm just saying.
But if I like post on my story,
Yeah.
That's different. That does that because it's like
Yeah, but you're not kind of telling people.
I think sometimes it's
No,
you taking control of when and how you want to
Right,
do
yeah.
something
right,
is
yeah.
really important.
The
In an
narrative.
age of like immediacy,
that's what I'm saying.
I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Like the idea that things have to be immediate. We have to immediately respond to something. And I think you find celebrities who say sorry 5 different ways, and the
Right.
5th time they finally listen to their publicist, right?
yeah.
So I think like, I think sometimes
That's so true. Because you can tell what they've actually listened
yeah, the baby,
apologies
right?
Oh my days, that's what I'm thinking of.
The baby, right? Like literally, like the baby, like when the bag got too big, he lost. He was like, let me just pay for.
Send me that message again.
it's just a baby.
I hate the iOS press release though. That really annoys me when the Notes app when they upload that.
Oh, man,
I hate it
love
so
it.
much.
Isn't
Can
that
you
Travis
just go on
Scott do that?
Canva and make it nice?
Screenshot, make it pretty. Watermark.
It's a free app. Please just get your little cousin that's still in high school to do it for you, right? So I think that there's a sense of urgency that happens for a lot of people.
Right.
That I think that if you just
Take time.
well, deal with your feelings first, right?
Yeah.
And I think you not managing how you feel about it. And I think anytime, what I've learned, especially having had a public profile as a therapist, is that I think I've had to deal with my feelings. I've made mistakes. I've made public mistakes,
Right.
and I've had to deal with my feelings about that first and process. Because I'm human. I'm allowed to be upset about something, but I'm not necessarily. I shouldn't do that publicly. And choosing when things should be private and when things should be public, I think is fine. I think if you have any form of public facingness, I think you need to be able to have boundaries and have a process of dealing with things, so you are in your rational mind
Yep.
and you're not in this overwhelmed state. Yeah.
Thank you for articulating much better.
No problem.
what
I just want dilemmas. I thought
Yeah,
that
let's
was
get
gonna-
into these dilemmas.
I
man.
want problems always.
What do you guys? Problems always. Do you guys
I
want
don't like peace.
some relation one?
us a good one.
We'll do a couple,
Some
surely.
personal. I mean, how much time you
Yeah,
got on
yeah,
your hands?
yeah.
And this is
We'll
be
tell-
careful with how you
All
answer this.
day.
You messed up.
And then what?
You messed up so
And then
bad.
as soon as I get the first question,
Yeah,
I got a rap. I should got Uber outside.
All right,
Mix
bet.
it up. Mix it up.
All right.
Well, that's not a nice way to look at someone's dilemma, man.
I know, right?
This guy.
All right. No, this isn't the one I was laughing at. Just saying that.
Also, guys, this is a comedy podcast. This is not a substitute
a
for
comedy.
therapy.
Yeah, bad.
This is
laughter can be
it's not a substitution for
It's
therapy.
not
I want to be
sorry,
really
guys,
clear.
It's not. It's not.
But this is
Laughter
not.
is the best medicine. So look
It's
in
not
the
a
mirror
medicine,
and
actually.
you-
It doesn't.
I love how she's correcting it.
It is not a
Be
medicine.
really, fact check.
All right.
Hit us.
This is a start. This is the one I was laughing at. Just say again.
And you guys also answered the question.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, as always. Don't worry. We didn't bring it here.
While
to
I do
put you on the
damage
chopping
control
block.
mentally,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm like, okay, should I
Exactly.
speak before Noor or after Noor? I just want to
If I speak before, he won't say it. If I speak after, I can cover it up. I don't know. Which one?
speak after Noor smile, yeah?
All right. I'm low-key scared of making new guy friends because I end up always liking them.
Damn.
Oh.
That's the dilemma.
That is tough.
I'm
I'm
low-key
low-key-
scared of making new guy friends
I
because
think
I
this
end
is
up
for the
always.
ladies.
So I'm low key scared of making. Okay, so let's create a question out of this, right? So the question is,
How do I stop liking my guy friends?
oh, what should I do?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Do you see where I'm going?
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
do you want me to be the host? Because I
Please,
feel
if
like
possible. I don't know. Right now, thank you.
I feel like you're struggling, drowning.
Yes.
Do you guys have answers?
I got one.
I'll go on.
Yeah.
Real quick. How
Toxic
did you,
masculinity all the time. Yeah,
how
please
did you
go for it.
rephrase this question?
So the question was,
Say
Well,
it.
the
Yeah.
dilemma is
The phrase, the statement was, I'm low-key scared of making new guy friends because I end up always liking them.
yep, and the question is, what should I do?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to make it like
Yeah.
We know
actionable.
where we're going
Yeah.
So we're not like
chatting.
psychoanalyzing this person, yeah?
Yeah.
So
Facts.
if that was you, or if that was someone that you knew, what would you do?
I was going to say, just send it.
Wait,
With what?
Send what?
Just like all of
Yeah.
them?
Wait, what? Damn.
Yeah, I think I lean towards that.
Because what's
Yeah.
wrong with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it means
If
that you
it's
have.
in a healthy context, like,
Although it doesn't
because
mean
what,
that, like,
Let's-
you
let's-
can't
let's-
just
let's add
genuinely hold
context,
a
yeah.
platonic friendship.
platonic
with
friendship.
them.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
So
Because
I'm
that could be
saying,
a
She
problem
sounds
once
like
she
they're
does-
falling for them.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that is not a problem because if they actually are, what's the word
But I
here?
don't think they want to fall for
Yeah,
them.
that's why.
Oh, okay, yeah, they don't want to
Yeah.
fall for them, right? But it's like they also wouldn't be mad if that ends up being a relationship, I'd assume.
But she's
Me-
saying,
sorry, let me bring it back.
Yeah, I
me
get-
in
I
this
get your- I get your
situation,
thinking.
me in this situation, if that's my blah, 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 I found a guy friend, yeah, and now I like him, yeah.
Well, it's a
And
girl,
then now
right?
he
So-
likes me back.
So for,
Okay, but
Best deal.
But the loophole rule.
so for you, it's girls. Like, I don't want to make friends with girls because I end up liking them.
Yeah. But if they like me back, I've struck gold.
Okay, but what about this? You get
Yeah,
into a
it's
relationship.
my friend and I like them and they like me.
Boom,
No, no,
bow, let's
no.
get it cracking.
No,
Soulmate.
Daniel. The thing is, if you get into a relationship with them because they like you and you like them,
Mm-hmm.
that means that you can't make new girlfriends because you're gonna like.
Okay, you're taking
you're gonna
it to
like
that.
them.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I
why
was
sensitive.
thinking
level
that.
of it is now where there might be a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the problem is that they can't make new
Exactly,
friends. That's
they
what I was
like
gonna
all
say.
of
It's
them.
boundaries.
But I wonder
Yeah,
if
it depends on the depth of the friendships that you want, though.
yeah,
as
but
well.
that's why you create the boundaries there, so you
Yeah.
actually.
I guess the curiosity I have is like,
What would we do?
Right.
the curiosity I would have is what is it about someone giving you attention
As a friend.
that that is so scarce that it makes you like that person? Because the curiosity I'd have is like, oh, is this unfamiliar for you? Is it unfamiliar for you? And is that an experience that you don't have? Like, you know, is
Male
it
attention.
Or just being-
Father wasn't in your life.
Well, my thing is
not always?
yeah.
It could just be like, I actually don't have experience with I don't have guy cousins. I don't have, you know, guy friends, or in my community, I know I wasn't allowed to like hang with boys for a while, right? So I don't have that experience. So is it something about like someone providing me attention I can't differentiate if it's platonic or not?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, yeah. Or is it that like if we want to get deep, is there something about me that I feel, you know, I'm insecure about, that when people are
I feel like guys would only like you for that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know,
That's good.
I would say
yeah.
get a therapist.
But my thing is, why are we taking it?
good answer
But
there.
I'm also, my thing is like, why are we taking it all the way there? Because what if it's like you're a great selector of people, and you actually are choosing very compatible and very, very.
'Cause it
Then
means
that
you
wouldn't be a
can't-
dilemma then.
Bro, if it's
It
a
wouldn't be
yeah,
a
if
dilemma.
there's
It's
something-
a
yeah,
dilemma.
it's a
It's
dilemma.
But now the
This is
situation
issue.
is they're not liking you back, and the friendship falls out.
I don't think
Is
Well,
what
it
I'm
sounds like
saying.
they're wanting
Right?
friends too.
Exactly.
Like,
I think they just want
Yeah.
And
So
we're
I'm saying,
blind. This
so
is
I'm
us
saying,
adding
So my
context,
thing
yeah.
is like, yeah. But so that's why I'm like, why are we taking it to the fact of like that they are?
That's why I said I would be curious.
Right. Okay.
I'm not saying this is what you are.
Yeah.
So this is why I have
You're
words
very
meanings.
geared.
So I'm curious
At your
about
job.
this because it could be like,
Right.
oh nah, I just like you said, when I pick friends, they're like the creme de la creme, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I turn
yeah.
around and
Top
be like,
tier.
actually, you know what? I don't want lock the bag. Like I want to keep it in,
Yeah.
right?
Friends anymore.
So and that's fine if that's the case. But if someone's presenting as a dilemma,
Yeah.
I guess why do you find that problematic? And it sounds like because you don't want that to be happening.
Exactly.
hence, something you go, implications are made.
Yeah.
I have to read between the line and bring it out.
I like that.
Good. What else we got?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, let's try
That was a nice one. That was a
Yeah, I
nice
like
one.
that.
That's
That was
really
good.
good.
Good, I
Everyone,
think
Let's try to smash
round of
through a
applause.
few.
Therapist.
Got mini therapists.
Yeah.
But I love us. We said, send it, boundaries. And then she's like, I'm curious. What is right?
I don't want to
That makes sense the way you look at it that way.
the way you judge a good therapist is how curious they are about things.
Yes.
Because I can't make you
That's
can't
why
make
it's always about unpacking. It's never about just packing it and leaving it at that. It's always about
I'm gonna say that even
Let's
with that
just-
answer, like I don't even know if you gave a therapist answer or if it was just like from a female perspective. Because I was like, I relate 100%.
Yeah.
I was like, that's how I would have answered it.
Yeah.
coming
That's why I
from
relate
that
with you the
person.
most.
Yeah, so
That's why I love you.
I love
My
it.
therapist, good.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyways,
To the podcast today.
ready? My partner
wanna
and
start a
I.
podcast?
never
I love
mind.
I think we need to.
All right, my partner and I don't conversate anymore, and our relationship is deading. But we have so much baggage between us to separate. What should I do? There's more. I've also been talking to this other person, and maybe we should start with the first one, or do you guys
Read the
want
whole
to
thing.
do
No, I want the whole
Separated.
context.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love the
situation,
story.
right? Okay, all right. I'll start again. My partner and I don't conversate anymore, and our relationship is deading, but we have so much baggage between us to separate. What should I do? I've also been talking to this other person and really enjoying our conversation. I can see myself falling in love with them. Is this cheating? My partner doesn't know.
Partner doesn't know then.
Where do we start?
an idiot.
Now, if your partner doesn't know, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had us in the first half. He had us in the first half.
Like I don't know. Again, everyone's definition of cheating might be different.
They're asking us, is this cheating?
Yeah, I mean, that's our thoughts, our opinion. I guess everyone will have different.
Running it back
thoughts on
again, the main thing that they were saying, though, is that the conversation isn't really
Well,
going.
there's two questions.
I mean,
They asked two questions,
aspects,
right?
yes.
focus
So
on
what
the
should I
first
do
one.
with my first relationship?
What should I do with the relationship
And
right
then-
now?
There's
When,
another
and they said there's
ethical to be
so much baggage between us to separate.
So let's
So
Yeah.
my
My curiosity.
is why the conversation dedicated.
I love it. I'm curious about the array of issues that are going on. Yeah?
It is a good question though, right?
It is a good question.
Like, why is it?
Why is the
I think
conversation?
it
Yeah,
would
and also
also-
like, oh no, go.
I think it would also be nice to see when they started dating and what age they're at now, because that would also play an important role. It's like, did you guys get together when you were younger, and now a lot of life has been happening, and you guys are kind of like growing separate ways?
What's the
or
baggage?
What's the
That's
like? What's the
what I'm
baggage?
saying.
What's
as
the bag?
well?
Is it a kid?
Like, yeah,
That's what I was.
Yeah, like I think the curiosity is around the baggage.
half the kid each.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
it, Solomon, bro.
Old
What's
Testament
going
over
on?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
King
that's why people call you
Solomon.
conservative. But
Was Solomon
yeah,
conservative?
fair.
with all those women?
Relationship.
Come on now.
This is very liberal
when we
with
go to
his-
your Christian podcast, we'll talk about it.
This is my Christian podcast. This is my Christian.
So we don't conversate anymore. Our relationship is deading. There's so
Yep.
much baggage between us to separate. What should I do? Yeah.
Yep, and then the second half was like
Second half
I've
is
started
about
this
the
conversation with
conversation,
someone
yeah.
else,
That's
right?
low key.
And am I cheating?
I'm outside.
I'd be saying it's dating. What is dating for you, right? And the end thing that I'd be saying is, I think you're gonna have to choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to eventually be like, is this worth investing in and figuring it out? Is that something I want to do? And why is it that I can't leave? What's the baggage that's holding me back? Because it's not holding me back from starting new relationships. It's holding me back from leaving or from ending the relationship because I've already got the next lined up, right? And the question around cheating, I don't know what's happening. I would say anything that you feel that you have to hide is based off your own morality already. So you have your own
Or
answer.
expectations that have been set
Well,
within
it's-
your relationship.
Yeah, well, it's based off the
The standards. Yeah.
no, because I think that the hiding part is based off your own morality, right? Like it's already you've chosen that
Right.
I'm choosing to hide this thing. So you've already decided that it's something that's
You
wrong,
shouldn't be doing. Yeah,
100%.
right?
definitely.
Off you. Before we even talk about what the rules are in the relationship,
Can we
right?
add a second angle to that though? You've
Yeah.
also decided that it's safer for you to hide this aspect because it might not necessarily be a morality aspect sometimes. It could also be just a
I'm not morals,
Quote, unquote,
not necessarily
so far.
like spiritual morality. It's just
yeah. I'm also just providing the angle of like it's not necessarily morals guiding the decision, but then again, like who is really gonna ever be in a relationship and be fine with you? I guess bringing out
Or if you're in an open relationship.
Unless you're in an open relationship,
Yeah.
So I was like, morals is one side, but then also another side might just be you can't.
But the
I can't
clash
safely bring this conversation up because I don't know what
But the
heck's
clash
going on.
is there, right? You're in a situation where you've already decided, or you've already acknowledged that you're not leaving because of baggage, right? There's something here that's that's holding me back from leaving, but not holding me back from engaging in something else. So you need to sort that out because it's unfair, unless there's obviously like a risk and stuff. But I'm taking this in the light perspective.
From what we've been given.
Yeah. And like you, based on what you're saying for yourself, you're saying that I'm hiding this. And I'd be curious, being like, okay, what's making you hide this? And I would then be like, well, then that directly contradicts. Is that part of your baggage? Because you're hiding this? Is that like, are these one of the baggaged items? Have we checked it in? Because it sounds like you're trying to bring in more than you're allowed. Right? So I would be like, you're at a point now where a foot is already stepped out and you're planning your exit, which to me sounds like you want to exit. So for everyone's healing, for the new person that you're engaging with and the person that you're exiting from, I think it's time to address that. And so you can start the new relationship in a way that is, not
secretive.
That's beneficial.
Can actually flourish.
Yeah, in an environment that is, a little bit more prosperous than the other one.
I would also add low key, because they're saying the conversation is dead. Right? Like, are they contributing to that?
Yes, I was gonna say that too. Because if clearly you can have live conversation with somebody else, then you could have this there.
100%.
If you're putting that effort in, if it's also reciprocated.
But you can't also revive a brick wall.
No, it's not about that. But it's also about like
there's two people in that relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, there's a contribution.
Yeah, but imagine, okay, let's say they are contributing and it's...
that's different. I think what I was going to say... Oh, no, keep going.
Because I was just going to say, this is just a question that you're asking yourself. It's like, okay, am I contributing to this? Because if you are, but you have one foot out, what happens
I'm not putting in the effort.
The same thing happens in your next relationship? That means you're going to do the same thing over and over again, right?
Yeah, well, it sounds like they're securing the bag so that there's I think
something lined up.
This is definitely something you'd have to unpack because you're creating problems for yourself, I think, by not addressing the problems. It's like continuously sweeping under the bag. And clearly there's something there that's holding you back that's worth figuring out. You know what I mean?
For
like
sure.
for the other person as well. Like for the other person in the relationship, I do them the service to end. If that's how you're feeling. If you've, and I'm not going to, I don't know how much you've brought it up or how much you've tried and all that kind of stuff, but prolonging something is just causing more pain. And I don't think anyone wants to hurt people.
I just thought of a funny joke. This episode drops on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right? On Wednesday, someone gets a call. Hey, listen, Abby.
Breaking up.
Take your advice.
And then on Thursday, I'm in session, so my girl just madness broke up with me. I'm like, say what? Share this podcast. I was like, no way. Yeah. Don't ever listen to podcasts.
I was also going to add with the baggage part, like, don't be scared of
carrying your bags around.
Yeah, because it is just a part of your life story as well. So, like, don't feel like it doesn't mean you're not going to be able to engage in another situation or another, you know what I mean? Like, I believe that there is always people, not just someone, I'm not the someone person, but there are people out there in the world that can look at you within the context of the bags that you're bringing and still be able to navigate the situation with that. Because I look at life as every every situation you're in, so many different things keep getting added to the painting, but the painting ultimately still gets created beautifully at the end, right?
Well, you'd hope that's what this new person is providing for them, you know?
And they also need to assess that.
Well.
They also need to assess if this individual can, look at them with the context of that as well. And you kind of have to provide them with that too, as opposed to hiding that. You know what I mean? Conversation is beautiful, but is it because they don't know about any of that other stuff?
Well, and baggage, if you think of baggage, right, it's like, you're not the only one bringing it. And I talk about that in terms of like a closet, right? So you have your baggage that you bring, they have baggage that they bring, and you have a shared closet of that baggage, right? So and there's stuff that you share in a relationship, and there's things that is your own responsibility to deal with. And I think and I say it not so eloquently, in therapy. I was like, there's your shit, there's their shit, and there's your shared shit. And that's why, you know, Noor had the entrance for the... It's like, what happens if I shit during coles? And is it mine or is
all metaphorical language.
Yeah, and like there's like how much of that is yours and how much of it is your shared stuff, right? And I believe it's your responsibility as an individual to take care of your shit, and it's your responsibility as a couple to take care of your shared shit, right? So it's kind of like baggage is not a bad thing. Baggage can be the good things that you have, and
Can bring
also
you together.
yeah. So it's not necessarily negative.
I do think though, if you are like hiding something, I think just to hold yourself accountable at least is like ask yourself if you'd be comfortable with if you found out that they were talking to someone as well. Because if you're not, then I think you should cut it out. If you realize you actually wouldn't care if your partner was talking to someone else, that's a good sign to leave.
Yeah.
As well, because clearly you're over it. Yeah. That's fine.
And what your reason for hiding is hiding because I don't want to talk about this situation, is hiding because I'm genuinely avoiding the issue, is what are your motivations behind your behavior, and unpacking that, because I think
100%.
yeah
2 more.
yeah
That's right. There's a lot more.
Don't
but
worry.
I want to do 2 more. I feel
I'm
like
gonna
I
get
need
home tomorrow anyway. I'm not sure if you get just a side
Catching a
note, right?
flight home
Like when I'm not gonna blow up your spot like this, right? But when they told me the suburb for this, the only time I've ever heard this name is in a Julia Roberts film that came out in the 1999. Like I've never heard of this suburb before. The first word that I ever, every time I heard this was in a film by Julia Roberts. So I just want you to know, like,
mission.
it's a mission and a half to get here.
And that's why I asked
Thank
you,
you,
are
though.
you sure you want to answer truthfully about how much time do you have? Because you still gotta.
I'm still arriving tomorrow, regardless.
Aye.
Goodness.
There's one I feel like I need to do this person justice because they've sent it to us, but it is a bit
Lengthy.
No, there's a lengthy one, there's a light one, and then there's one that's a bit more probably triggering, so I might have to like warning
Yeah.
and all that type of stuff.
Do the light one and then do the lengthy one,
Yeah.
and then put the triggering one at the end, and then
then
that way you
like-
can edit it out if it's not.
Right.
Smart.
Yeah, just
You should have a podcast.
separate them so
For
that
sure. All right.
Love it.
Light one.
I'll tell you if it's wrong.
Yeah. All right. This is a light one. How do I get over the ick of the thought of someone loving me? It's the reason why I've never been in a relationship, because I struggle with the concept of someone loving me because I don't see myself as someone that can be loved.
Oh, baby. Oh,
So I guess we all are aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So get over the
You
ick
are.
of someone loving me. It's the reason why I've never been in a relationship.
It's not
Struggle
a-
with
it's
that.
not an
Struggle with
ick.
that
Yeah,
concept.
it's
Yeah, that's why I was
not-
it's
interested
not
in
an
that they
ick.
use that term.
it's
Started.
self-referral. You're lovable. I think you're lovable. You deserve love. From the minute that you were born, you've deserved love. And unpacking why you feel that way is hard. We've all been there, and it's not something that, it's a universal experience that a lot of people have had. So it's not an ick. It's something that you can actually address, and you can address it in a safe way. It doesn't have to be with a therapist. It can be with someone that you feel comfortable with. But I think it goes a lot further than it just being, I'm unlovable. I think there's things that we get told in life about how we look, how we are, whether it's our childhood, whether it's our adulthood. And part of therapy, or part of the way we do therapy at Pola Practice, is unpacking what is like the socialization that we've experienced and the impact of that, and what is it, who we are at the core. And 100% all the time, we're always lovable. There's never a situation where someone has never deserved love.
That was beautifully said.
To be honest, we can't anything else. Like that was beautiful. Like,
Saw Noor smiling there in the corner.
yeah, nah,
I did.
So
Like,
Jeffrey
to be
Dahmer, what
honest,
do you
I
think?
think-
yeah. What if this is someone that's done a lot of horrible things, and now they feel unlovable because of all their mistakes?
This,
And
the question isn't like, the question is, are they deserving
Oh
of
yeah,
love?
100%. I don't want to
Yeah,
add to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
deserve love. Everyone
they're
deserves love.
They're deserving of love. And I think what saddens me the most, and part of why I do this work, is because of that, they miss out on things. I'm not deserving of love, so I won't love myself. I won't do these things for myself.
That is sad.
I won't engage with someone else in that way. I won't have opportunities for myself because I am not deserving of that. And that goes so far beyond an ick. It goes from the quality of your life to how you put yourself in situations. It's so deep. So I think like having someone to hold your hand through that, to me, that's what therapy is. It's to hold your hand and to experience that. And, you know, yeah, that was a cute one.
And do the lengthy one.
Yes, it's a serious situation. I was also gonna say, do I remember it? Yeah, no, I don't remember.
Do we
it,
need
so
to
it's
talk
not
about
worth
your
it.
memory?
We'll leave it at that. All right. I have a guy. It's an entanglement. Well, by the way, it's very long, guys.
Okay, so if it's long, I'm gonna write notes.
You actually might have everyone. You actually might have to write notes.
All right.
Just send it into the chat or something.
I have a guy.
Yeah.
It's an entanglement. Well, let me say we agreed to be friends with benefits. So we've been seeing each other like at least once a week, at times twice or thrice since last year, like every single week, except a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to develop feelings for this guy, but every time I try to bring around the topic, I just have an ego and won't tell him. However, during a conversation, he mentioned that he has no feelings for me. I want him, but there are so many other factors that will not allow us to have a thing. So the question is, should I keep on doing what I'm doing for the rest of the year because I love his company and it's a distraction from all the work I do? It's an important year for me. Then next year when I have time, hopefully I can go out and find someone who actually wants me. Or should I leave him, which will make me feel lonely because I won't have a good relationship? Or am I just being dumb and just need to go? But like also he's a good guy. And then they send another one. Girl from entanglement relationship again. Sorry, I'm using y'all for this. It's just that I want to talk to someone about it, but like I kind of feel ashamed to talk to my friends because I look dumb and no one can judge me because they don't know me. Instead, they can judge my actions. Oh, that was just a preface.
Yep.
So we didn't add any further context to the situation. But at least we know they can't talk to their friends about it.
So let's revise. What's the question?
So entanglement, right?
Yeah.
They've agreed to be friends with benefits. Been doing that for a minute now. Every time this individual actually wants to take it, like the girl who sent it in actually wants to take it further, an ego comes around and they say, okay, maybe let me not. I don't want to do that. I don't want to embarrass myself about that. But then also
He's expressed.
he's
he has
actually
no
also
interest.
expressed I don't have any
He's not
interest in
A
in a relationship. But there are also apparently many other factors that won't allow them to have a thing also. She's also mentioned this is a busy year for her, so she can focus on trying to find someone else next year and just enjoy the company for now. Or she could cut him loose now and be lonely, and then I guess miss out on the opportunity.
That is tough.
So what should I do?
So she could go either way.
Oh man, of course.
No.
Like
I love to know all the ways.
Worst therapist in the world.
gotta start like. Yeah.
Yep. Tell us all the ways.
If she keeps the company, she's risking diving even deeper.
Emotionally. Yeah.
Emotionally on her end.
Yeah, on her end. Right.
Or being hurt.
If
Yeah,
she
getting
gets
hurt for
rid of
sure.
it though, she risks having to deal with the heartbreak this year in a busy year,
Which is pretty bad. To be honest.
which can be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yes, it can derail you, but I wonder if you're better off with, because, okay, do you deal with the infection now or do you deal with it later?
I agree. The inevitable, if it's inevitable,
if it's
bro, just
inevitable that you
get
think,
it done as soon as
they
possible.
said there's so many other factors that means that they can't have a thing. So you already know that in your mind.
I mean, the main thing as well is he doesn't want a relationship
Yeah,
with her
fully
too.
agree.
So
Yeah.
regardless.
So the main point is like, do I want to deal with the pain of that right now in a busy year or deal with it later? I want to have more time to deal with
Maybe
the pain.
that is what the question really is.
Rephrasing.
Do I want to break up now or do I want to break up later?
Yeah, I mean, they
break up,
said it
end
themselves.
this,
They
or-
essentially said it themselves. Do I have more time to deal with it
Which
in
one
the
can you
future?
do?
Which one can you do? Explain.
Because I don't know if it doesn't sound like you can do the first thing. The
Okay.
idea of like, let me stay with this person, knowing good and well they don't want to be with me outside of the parameters of what we've established,
Yeah.
which is, this is a friends with benefits situation that I agreed to.
He only wants you for your cooch.
Oh man.
And you only wanted him for that as well, right?
Yeah.
So this was like,
For his cooch.
yeah. So can you handle that? Because it sounds like you feel away, as you deserve to. Like, you're allowed to have your feelings about it. And it's impacting you. So I would be like, okay, well, the first thing they're asking, can you stay? Can you stay another year? Because it's sounding like you can't. Why are you smiling?
Because I'm like, I want to. This can add a problem for this person though. Because I'm like, also, I know some guys will just say, no way, I don't want that. But then also low key want that.
What?
Like, I would never go for you.
So you say his feelings will develop on his
No. I'm saying
you can change
Are
it.
we doing a previous podcast episode? Should
No,
I
no,
wait?
no, I'm
Can
just
I
like-
change him?
Nah, impossible. I'm just. No, you can't. The changing thing. That's a losing battle. I'm just like, could he be disguising true feelings as well? Can we say that's a potential?
I always like to look at what I have instead of try
you
to.
have to deal with the facts.
Yeah. What you have in front of you
Right.
is you have someone who has entered the relationship in a particular way that they both consented to, and the feelings changed. And this person did a really great job of being like, hey, my feelings changed. It's kind of good. Person's like, yeah, nah, no, not reciprocating. And she felt a way about it, as you can and as you are allowed to, and now feels, I don't know who to talk to about that, right? And I think, to me, that's already telling me that it's already something that's too much for you.
Yeah.
And it would be too much for anyone, right? To know this is not something that other person wants to continue. Then the other part of it was, should I stop because I've got work-life balance, all this kind of stuff. Sounds like it's already impacting those things anyway, right? That messaging on a anonymous podcast, right?
Yeah.
You can't talk to your friends.
Yeah.
This is something that's being kept in secret. So I feel like there's a bit of a delusion as to the level of impact that this is already having on you, right? So I'm not saying this person is deluded, but I'm just saying, like, let's look
have
at
you properly looked at it.
Yeah, like
just
if
what is it doing to you right now?
It's clearly affecting you, and you're allowed to be affected by it. So the question I would be having is, what can you withstand? Because it doesn't seem like you can withstand being with this person, and it seems like it's already impacting your life and you're moving away. So it doesn't have to be this like clear cut thing, but can you transition out? Can it be something that you're like, okay, this person doesn't want me, and I know that this is going to hurt me, and until I figure it out, until I would say get a therapist, get some support around it, because that's someone that's outside of your friends, outside of your family, who's not looking at you in that way. They're looking at the situation, and you build a relationship through that, so that you can do this in a more personal way. This is a side conversation. This is not necessarily the thing that this person is presenting with, but I'm always curious. That word is specifically for you, but I'm always curious when people enter particular relationships, because there's a safety in friends with benefits, right? There's the parameters of that relationship, and you know that you emotionally won't get hurt in a particular way. And sometimes people choose relationships that they know that they will end in a particular way, because I know I'm more familiar with things ending badly or ending in this way than the hope and the of a different pathway, right? Because that's scary. That's something I don't know, but I know this. And the thing that the person mentioned about the ego and all that kind of stuff, because that's the like, oh, if I actually really say how I feel, I'm gonna get hurt, and I don't know if I'm a bit fragile around that, or a bit vulnerable around that. So I would be curious around, are these the actual types of relationship that you want? Because it's okay for it to change, because once you know someone, there are tons of people who've had open relationships and they've closed them, who have had friends with benefits, now they become no longer friends, they become like an official relationship, or they've digressed from official to friends with benefits, and that's okay. But I would be curious about kind of what were your intentions around that relationship, and it's okay if it's changed, but is this a pattern? How is it happening? Why is it happening in that way? What about this feels familiar, and why can't you disclose with your friends what's happening for you that you can't engage with? Is it a thing about your friends? Is it a thing about how you feel about it, and the uncertainty around it? Because that's what it sounded like. And it's okay if you haven't got that, but you need to find a substitute for it. So if you can't talk to your friends, or you can't talk to your family, there needs to be a place to air it out, because the therapist is not always available on the podcast, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Imagine we did this one ISO. Damn, that would have been. We did that on our one.
When I tell you, during ISO, we were so like, every therapist was burnt out. Like we were seeing clients.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
I reckon just break up with them, to be honest.
I was gonna say.
I
I mean,
think that's actually.
I mean,
the best.
they've also said this themselves. Like, there's other factors that will not allow us to have a
Yes,
thing.
that's
And I'm
my-
like, maybe look at those factors and understand, is that very, very
Writings on the wall.
you know what I'm saying?
That's really what it is.
Man, is that very paramount? Or there's a better word. Couldn't find it.
I found it for you. Writings on the wall.
Just use it.
I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm scared of the the space for our recording.
Should be fine.
Just go fast.
Because I was gonna do one and then that and then the final one.
No, just do the final one.
Just do it. Just do it. If it's a small one, just do it. I reckon.
Small one. How
Just
do
small
I get
space.
how do I get over awkward social interactions?
Multiple ways.
All right.
Slow exposure.
Slow exposure.
Yep. So, like, what is the social interaction? Like, understand what is the thing that's causing you to feel uncomfortable. So, is it social interactions face to face? Is it social interactions with people you don't know? Is it big groups? Like, understand what it is and what it brings up for you. And if it's something that you wish to continue, like, hey, I want to be really good at public speaking, or I want to be able to do this, you know, in a public forum or whatever the thing is, make small steps towards that. I think that's the easiest way to unpack that. Yeah.
That's a nice one, actually. Slow exposure.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Understand the issue.
Yep.
Understand how you feel about it, and then slow exposure.
I like that.
I'm just wondering, this awkward social interactions aspect. Because a scenario came to my mind of like,
Yeah. I love scenarios.
yeah, because it's like, let's say you, you want to become of a
He's
certain.
laughing at a joke that he's gonna.
I didn't watch us not laugh.
No, it's not a funny. It's
It
not a
wasn't
joke.
even funny.
It's
It
not a joke.
wasn't even funny.
It's not a joke, but it's just a funny. I got secondhand embarrassment of thinking about this hypothetical person.
Wow.
So,
You're
like,
shaming that person's experience.
already. This is that I've just created. So you want to be of a certain echelon and a certain category of individuals that you hang around,
Echelon?
right?
That's a great word.
I found a good word. So you want to be of a certain, you know what
hour
I mean,
in.
prestige.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So you're trying to engage in more circles with these types of individuals, right? But every time you go there, you make a big fool of yourself. You don't say the right things. You're not aware of the terminologies, the colloquialisms. There's another good word for all of you as well. You just
Jargon.
okay, no, not jargon. But yeah, you're just making a fool of yourself in this situation, and they're becoming very awkward social interactions. Or let's say it might be that you are with someone or friends with people who their family are maybe of a certain prestige as well, and every time you're in that situation, it's a awkward encounters, etc., etc. Or just awkward social encounters. Is the same thing there a slow exposure, or how could someone kind of navigate that kind of a situation?
They're not saying the right words, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what's happening to them, I think, is the curiosity I have.
They say everyone's laughing, kikiing. They make the joke
Because
dead
I've
silent.
said something that was
just didn't-
inappropriate or didn't make sense.
It
or
just
Jokes
it
at
wasn't.
the wrong time
It just
and
wasn't.
everything.
Yeah, it just wasn't of the same.
And
Like,
does
I
that-
wasn't reading
and
the
does the
room,
person do,
yeah, the room was
does
not
the-
being read. Yeah, but yeah,
does the person do that in other situations?
in other situations more similar to their own settings, they're
It's like
fine.
yeah, different. Yeah, so they're reading the room a lot better,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
or they're able to provide feedback in a way that makes sense, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'll be exploring the distress, because clearly there's an association between the distress that you feel and so it's not necessarily an exposure issue, but it's what's happening internally for you in that time. Because clearly you can make that, you can do it outside of that environment. So there's something about that environment that triggers a particular response for you. So it's understanding what that trigger is, where the roots of that are, and what happens for you from that. And then this is what a therapist does. Once you understand all that, it's about how do I then, because ideally you would want to be able to continue if it's like in-laws or if it's a work thing, to be able to continue on forward. So
Yeah.
a practical example that I've had with people was like, okay, so is there particular dialogues that you can practice within yourself, or is it like so that's around like the practical. My name is. So that's like a practical thing, but
Right.
I think there's another part of it that's like, how do I regulate myself to be okay in that?
these
Because
situations.
there's an emotional response that's been elicited within your body that is not necessarily voluntary. Yeah, so it's about how do I go into a space where I am present and in that space, and also can I be okay with not being perfect in those spaces? Because a lot of the time people are not feeling okay in those spaces, or I feel that I need to do the most, and then while I'm doing the most, I actually do the most. And I look at it's like, wow, I actually did it.
I did it.
I don't like it, but I'm going to do it again, right? So it's like, why do you need to do that? You know, so figuring out the motivations behind it, and kind of like, okay, what is purposeful, what's not purposeful, especially if this is your, in-laws or this,
I like that last one you said, because that's the mentality I've had when it comes to situations. It's like, just don't care about what they think of you, but not in a negative way. But it's more articulated in what you've said in terms of like, sorry, how did you say it again? Being comfortable with
how you are present in that space and how you occupy
and not trying
space.
to be perfect. So
some people like, oh, I have a stutter, I really struggle, I don't want to have a stutter. I'm like, okay, then what's the issue with your stutter? Oh, I'm stuttering. Well, I can hear you, I can understand you. So do you have more of a problem with your own stutter than someone else does with your stutter, right? And it's like how I view myself in this space. Yeah. So a lot of the things that therapists do is they kind of look at, that's why we're so curious, right? We're looking at everything. We're looking at what the other person's seeing, what you're seeing, what you're thinking, what's happening, how you're feeling, and trying to make sense of it in that space.
I was just going to add, because I feel like I kind of relate to this person's dilemma. When we first, when we first started like doing podcasting and going into these social events, like everyone wants to chat. Everyone wants to find out what you do, who you are, where you come from and stuff. And for me, I was like, coming into the podcast, I wasn't always a talkative person. I'm still kind of slowly getting out of that. And something that I had to learn was like, because every time we'd go to these events, I'd be like, okay, I'd carry on my shoulder the fact that I have to go in with topics to talk about, or I have to go in with responses, or I have to know, how to answer this question, or like even just the idea of there being an awkward silence. I was like, it just makes me feel so uncomfortable. And I feel like that's something that I'm having to learn about. It's like, okay, if it's awkward for both of us. I'm not the only one who's standing there feeling awkward about it, So I don't know, maybe that's how they feel in terms of like, how do I navigate that? Where it's like, okay, we're standing there. Well, you say something.
How have you? Because you've been
I feel like I'm still trying to learn. So
like clearly something's happened, right? That's you just said, oh, I'm getting better
at it. I
just
tag along with these guys. I walk because they talk. So I'm usually like, just tagging along, and they'll be chatting and stuff. But I think
that's how you dealt with it.
That's how I dealt with it.
So you utilize the people around you,
me, for sure,
in a way to like support your social battery, right? So you're
using us.
That's why you also hang around.
I said utilize, not using.
Come on, thesaurus, synonyms.
Bring me the words around. I don't know.
Politician.
Don't you know what therapists are? But see, you clearly found a way to, because you are still present and available and all that kind of stuff. But you figured out, okay, so I can, when I'm not feeling the best, I can utilize the people around me, but now also engage in a particular way. And then you might have boundaries around, okay, these are the things I am going to discuss and then the things I won't. And I have an emotional load that I know where that's at. You've done so much labor before you've gotten up to that space to be able to do what you're doing professionally and to do it well. And I think that's part of it. Part of being able to occupy these spaces is that I need to figure out all these things before I get here, and no one sees that. All anyone sees is just me in the little short clips, right? So to me, it's a testament of like how you've been able to overcome things that are part of the job, but you don't necessarily, it's not your favorite part of the job. And you've done really well.
Good job, Marwa.
That's a good response.
It's not about me, guys. Come on.
But head off
it
the
is now.
All right, and last one. Let us know if it's
this episode doesn't feel long, but it's been long.
Yeah, and I was here
This might
super
end up being
early.
3 hours,
That was the funniest part.
7.
Today or yesterday, I was like, oh, wow, we actually haven't done a super long episode. And I was like, oh, our sweet spot has been between hour 15 to hour and a half.
This might be the second longest.
You guys don't want to know what this is.
3 hours, I know.
No, I don't think it's 3. I think we started at 7:15, 7:18.
It's a number.
I'll send you an invoice.
I think this might be the second longest episode.
But like, of course, we spend a long time talking to a therapist.
Normally they kick you out and they say, hey, it's been 55 minutes.
Whereas I'm like, problems always.
All right. The man I love is getting drunk and I should definitely say like this is trigger warning if we end up like keeping it in for sure. But the man I love is getting drunk and becoming abusive, punching holes on walls and laying his hands on me. When he's sober, he's the best blessing I've received. I don't know what to do. I have hopes he's going to change, but I can't trust it won't happen in the future. I'm at a point in my life where I want to settle down and I don't want to do it with anyone who isn't him. I don't know if it's worth the risk.
This is just a phrase that like I like is you cannot partner with potential, you have to partner with patterns. And this is a very bad pattern. And this is not something like you're saying this is the like perfect man on his best day, but that is not the best man that could come your way if that is part of the package. So I definitely think this is not something you should be part of.
Anyone going with anything else?
I agree with Noor. I think it's one of those where it's like people show you the best days, the worst days, right? And that's what you're kind of accepting. You know, you kind of have to be okay with the best days and also okay on, you know, someone's worst days as well. And if this is what they are on the worst day, then it's not worth it.
It's also one of those where it's like if the individual is not willing to accept or take accountability for actions, like if you're bringing it up of like, let's say you even say something like, because the problem that they're saying here is about getting drunk and becoming abusive, right? That is, I guess, not the basis of the problem. There's a lot more below that, but it is definitely a catalyst that leads to a lot of the situations that they're seeing. I would say if that person is not willing to take accountability of those actions, or if we converse about can we reduce the
drinking.
the drinking or taking steps toward, like if there's no remorse or no like option to try to I guess progress towards better outcomes. If that individual is not willing to like do that, then you're actually not with someone who is wishing for the best for you. Because if, I guess, from my opinion, if someone is willing or if someone understands the hurt they're inflicting on you and from a point of love doesn't want to like, I guess, change that for the sake of your safety and for the sake of the love that you're experiencing together, then that individual is not having your best interests at heart. Or they have more things that they need to deal with further within them that is clouding, I guess, some of the best interests that they would have. Because it says on a good day is the best blessing I've received. But I guess you're right. It's not, potential is not enough to carry on a relationship within that setting. But that's my 2 cents.
You also do have to think like if you see this trend, like if he's willing to put hands on you, he will put hands on the kids, he will put all that kind of stuff, right? And obviously you don't want to speak that over someone's life. Hopefully he can change all this kind of stuff. But like Carl said, you got to be willing to commit for the worst days as well when it comes to a long-term thing. And if those are the worst days, like you don't want to put children through that. You don't want to put yourself through that anymore. Like, yeah, I don't know.
But I think everything needs to be dealt with within safety.
Can you read the back half of the...
Back half. I don't know what to do. I have hopes he's going to change, but I can't trust it won't happen in the future. I'm at a point in my life where I want to settle down, and I don't want to do it with anyone who isn't him. I don't know if it's worth the risk. So I think that I don't want to do it with anyone who isn't him is also kind of a curious aspect too.
Yeah. I would say anytime that love is causing us to be hurt and abused and our well-being and safety is at play is when we need to start considering, is this love something that I should be in? Now, I respect every person's right to choose to be with someone, even if it's that person is the person that abuses them. And I also acknowledge the fact that leaving a violent relationship is the highest risk for people to experience abuse. And when this person is saying, is it worth the risk, it could mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, right.
And it could literally you could risk your life to leave. And sometimes it's me surviving, even if it means I'm surviving in an abusive relationship, is better than me being dead, because that's the level of risk that we're talking about. I would say that, you know, you are deserving of love. And this relationships that have this level of abuse are known to have patterns of abuse, not in the way that Noor was talking about, but more in that it can make you feel like this is all I deserve and this is all I'm going to get, because there are pockets within that relationship where it feels amazing and it only feels that amazing because of the harm is so high, right? So if this person is hurting you in such an extreme way, any pocket of kindness and any pocket of love or love bombing makes you stay. And that is what sits at the bottom of abuse. It's power, it's manipulation, and part of that is like, oh, I'll stay because there's something worth fighting for. Now, I would say it's your choice about what you want to do and how you want to do it, but you're not alone in your choice. And you know what is the safest thing for you to do in those spaces. There is access. 1-800-RESPECT is a good number, depending on what you want to do and how you want to go about it. And I'd say if you are at risk, if you're worried that harm is going to happen towards you, or if you're uncertain, speak to someone else about it privately, discreetly, to map out what is the best options for me. It doesn't have to be, if you don't feel comfortable with a friend or a family member, there is support out there. Whether that support is just a conversation, whether you need to go somewhere to crash. I have supported women countless times, or everyone countless times, in exiting, and it is a plan. It's not something that we just do. It is a strategic approach of how do I ensure the highest level of safety. So it's around harm minimization, and it looks different for everyone. And when you are in a particular situation and you are literally fighting for your life in a space, you can't think far ahead. All you can see is what's in front of you, because that is the nature of survival. I'm not thinking about if the axe murderer is going to follow me all the way back to Melton. I'm thinking about how do I leave this moment of unsafety. So I would say I'm so proud of you that you've reached out, that you've used an anonymous service. I think it's a reflection of the connection that you guys have with your audience, and the fact that you are considering doing something for yourself, and you're considering your well-being in this. And it's not a commentary on whether or not you should stay or leave with this person. I would say, if, you know, that step in itself is huge, and I think we're all proud of you for doing that. And I would say you can similar to the exposure thing, you can continue with those steps and speak with someone about it, with the crisis service around it. And you don't need to make a decision. You don't need to have a full-blown plan. But I think starting those conversations is a baby step. And, you know, you are deserving of safety. You are deserving of not having to be worried about what happens next. And you are deserving of a future where you are loved and you are safe. And I think as someone who has survived that already, you already clearly care about where you are. And figuring out how to move forward is something that you have the capacity to do, because you've done it now. And I think, you know, we'll chuck on some numbers at the bottom of this and how to reach out and all that kind of stuff. But definitely, yeah, all the above.
Wow.
Hey, Tigist, man, that was...
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's why I said, like, if we're going to do it, we have to
do it properly. Yeah, I think...
do it properly.
I mean, I looked at it, I was like, we are the person in the service of actually reading that out, because one, it's real life and their experience, but also they've actually taken the step to bring it to this type of a forum and a platform. And when else are they going to actually have someone like yourself to, I guess, speak on it? So I really hope that does provide some kind of a, you know, insight into the steps forward. But the safely aspect is definitely the, you know, and the planned aspect of it is a big part for sure.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, questions like that make us reflect.
100%.
I had a question for you guys.
Oh, man,
or a few questions, you know, me and my problems. A, have you guys gone to therapy? And B, why haven't you?
She already knows the answer.
Back to back. Why? Yes. Why? Tell me. Why?
You actually answered this question for me already in what you said.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned something about, well, can we mention Jesus as, and you know, like priests being prophets to people and Jesus back then for other people. You mentioned how some people, the therapy that they get is from those kind of individuals, but some it might be through the community that they're around and stuff like that. My answer is that. Not because I'm against therapy or anything like that. Like talking to you right now, if this is what therapy is, you know, you can catch me tomorrow. I'm gonna be there.
But this is what it is.
Right.
Like that direct conversation. But this is also culturally responsive therapy, which is putting your identity, your faith, all the parts that make you you in the context of why
Yeah,
you
for
are.
sure.
I'll talk about that a little bit later because that's promo for me. But anyway.
But like, yeah, I think that's why there hasn't been a point where I've come to like, I need to go to a therapist, because unknowingly I'm having that therapy with the people around me. And I'm a very big advocate of like, if I can't have real conversation with my friends, I actually don't need those people in my life. Like, I need to be able to talk about these real raw things, and then we can like work through that. I mean, like, and sometimes not even because I need to hear any opinion, just to be able to have that, like some people that I know are trusting of, that I can trust in that.
So I'm hearing you've got a community literally like in terms of like your religion and your faith, and then listening to previous podcasts, a strong family kind of that you can connect to, and then like friends and
then obviously
people.
Also,
I was gonna get there, like
right.
friends, and then you've got a partner as well.
Yeah.
So you've been able to kind of get free therapy off every little bit of everything.
So that's my
She made a referral, man. She's like, look, it keeps. So please, she's heading out.
I think in saying that, I also acknowledge that you can't dump that on everyone or expect everyone to deal with that for you. But
you got multiple, right?
Yeah, but
it's a little bit like 10%.
But yeah, I've been blessed with people around me that are able to take that, but also many people as well. So yeah, it is, I guess, divvied up. But yeah, people that can take it as well, ultimately, you know. So that's why I haven't been into therapy just yet.
Who's next?
For me, it's legit the same as Daniel's as well. Even these guys can testify to this as well. Like a couple of months ago, Mans was going through something. Like I actually told these guys, and we just prayed about it. They gave me good advice, and that was the last time. Like that advice, I already said thank you. I don't need to tell you said thank you.
I don't remember hearing.
But yeah,
I definitely never said it.
Nah, 100% did. But for me, like it stuck
Group
right
hug.
there. Like I
it.
got the advice I needed, and I was like, all right, cool. I didn't need any further assistance. I think if I did, probably maybe therapist would kick in, maybe, not sure. But I felt like every time I go for an advice, I'd always get the answer right there and then.
Yeah.
Right? If it's friends, family, church.
It's never been
community.
too much.
It's never been too much. Yeah, it's almost like kind of spread them around.
That was also what I was going to say as well. I don't know if I've gone through anything to the extent where
that couldn't be held.
like that it couldn't be held by the surroundings just
exactly
yet.
right.
What I've
So
had.
you kind of get that answer or that wisdom there right there and then. Right? Yeah, there's never been a point where I was like, okay, no, I'm still not satisfied. Or no, I don't think this is good advice. No, I still don't know what to do.
But when you were younger, do you reckon there was a time that ish? Like, we just raw dogged it and we kept going, right? But I was like, we just keep going with this mental health thing.
Yeah.
But was there a time? I know that's another question. We'll let you guys finish. But like,
yeah.
Like, is there a time? Oh, I'll ask that later. Yep, go.
Okay.
You going? I feel like I definitely did need therapy. Because when I met him, I feel like growing up, I had like just bottled everything, right? And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, this doesn't bother me anymore. And so moving forward, I was like, if I ever were to go to therapy, that means we have to backtrack. And now everything will, just, family dynamics, just situations that kind of like occur where you're like, okay, I can bottle this up because it's not like something that's going to affect how I'm living my life right now. But it's like me at the state where I am right now, if I were to go back, I'm just scared that now it's going to change me or change who I am, where it's like I feel like I've progressed and I've done a good job at getting at where I am. That if I go to therapy, it's like, yep, let's unpack what happened when you were 7. Let's unpack what happened when you were 12. And it's like, I know it's not healthy as well to bottle things up. Definitely not, because, someone can say something and then all of a sudden, like, everything comes up and you just, emotions take over. But yeah, for me, I think it's just more of the fact that, like, I'm just scared to kind of tap into those things that I believe I've put away and I've kind of dealt with. And so now if I go to therapy, it's like, oh, let's talk about your childhood. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that because I feel like I've dealt with it, but clearly I haven't because, I'm... Yeah. So I think it's more of the scared aspect in terms of like, I've, done so well to get here, but now if I go to therapy, I'm going to 5 steps back now, unpack it all and dissect
which is
it
real.
all.
Like, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that because you figured out, like, life's given me problems, right? I've had some problems and I figured out a way to survive those problems in a way that made sense, that I'm okay. And I'm worried that, like, if I touch it, and is it going to make more problems? And I think that vulnerability I appreciate that vulnerability, because I think that's a lot of people's fear, right? Because it's the unknown. It's like, I know what to do with the things that I have and the tools that I have. Yeah.
Is that okay?
If you're okay with it, it's okay. I think you need to come to a space for yourself where you're like, am I okay with me just leaving it as it is? And it could be 1,000,001 reasons why you're like, not now. Could be 1,000,001, and I think that a majority of them are all valid. It could be, I don't have the time, or it's actually not an issue for me right now. It's something that I want to be aware of. I found why people rock up is because there becomes a time when it's impacting your present. So it's like, oh, now I'm entering a relationship and this is impacting my new relationship. Or I'm about to have a kid and all my stuff around my parents is coming up for me again. Or I'm transitioning into this space and it's kind of impacting my present. So I think I truly believe that people are really good at knowing when things are important for them. And if you've got the networks around you to be like, hey, I think you should listen, maybe you should go, right? And you're willing to do that, I think that's fine. I don't think people should go when they're not ready. And a good therapist helps you. So for the concern that you had, if it's heavy stuff, a good therapist is able to help you hold that heaviness and pack it up and be like, all right, now I'll go back to work, right? So, and be able to figure out ways for you to be able, because it shouldn't destabilize you. Therapy is hard, it's difficult, it's homework, but it shouldn't destabilize you. Yeah, right? So it should be able to, your therapist should help you contain. And therapy is triggering. So you also, part of the work that you need to do as a therapist is to be able to help contain and know that, hey, you might go after this and your memories might come up. What are you going to do? Because I'm not going to see you for 3 weeks yet. Don't call me.
You didn't pay me enough.
Yeah, well, it's like I need to plan that with you. And you don't know what you don't know. But I know because I have the knowledge. So I need to know. The first thing of trauma-based therapy or trauma-informed therapy is safety and stabilization, right? I need to ensure that part of my duty of care is when you leave, there's a level of holding that needs to happen. So when you go away, that you can come back, just going away and I never see you, right? So like there needs to be okay for you to go away and come back. And a lot of the work that I do is around that first before it's like, so tell me all your problems right now, then go away, So yeah, I think hopefully that answers your fear around like, it's my job to make sure that this is okay for you to go on afterwards. And it's your job to be able to disclose those things. That's part of our relationship to figure out when, where, how, and what makes it that you can still go to work and still, have your life.
I actually really like that because I was picturing like, imagine going for open heart surgery and the surgeon doesn't close you up afterwards.
Yeah.
They perform the surgery or whatever.
Yeah. It's
you're good to go, man.
You're like, I'm a bleeding heart, literally.
Like, what do you mean, doc? I like that you put that about the unpacking, but then being able to pack you back up to be able to perform.
Yeah, you need to put your baggage back up because no one's allow you all your clothes on the floor.
Yeah, that's but
we need to see the clothes.
Yeah.
We need to put it back.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say we'll probably do you, and then that you asked the question about the childhood thing, and then maybe talk a little bit about what you specifically do, the self-promo, and then we've got to, because I don't know if we've got enough space. Should be fine. It's not even a time; it's the space.
Don't.
All right,
Laptop's been funny.
The question is, have you had therapy, and why haven't you?
No, I haven't. I've considered it. I actually want to say same as Daniel, because genuinely, my life is pretty good. And not that means you shouldn't go therapy, but it's like I have a really good support system around me in every avenue of my life. So whether it's parents, whether it's sibling, whether it's friendship groups, I guess pastoral care as well, relationship, everything. There's no one that I cannot talk to deeply and about every topic. So it's like 98 or 99% of me is what Daniel said, what Carl said. But then there is a 1-2% of there was a tough period, which sometimes I'm I want answers for it. And And I don't know if therapy would give me that, but at least it would give me a place to just rant, if anything. Yeah. And so that's the one, but I guess that's like the 1-2% where it's like I relate with Marwa, where it's like, if I do that, I have to think about this whole thing over again, and I'm happy with where I'm at now. Like, yeah, having to deal with all that all over again is like...
It wasn't enough of an incentive, yeah? The problem wasn't enough of an...
Yeah, like I'm kind of happy on this path, you know, like keep going kind of thing. But I would never say no to it outright at all. Like in terms of formal therapy,
I find that the reason people come to therapy is not the reason why they stay. Right? So they usually come for a presenting issue.
That's what benefits become.
Are you talking about your personal experience? Interracial child. So recalling back to earlier in the episode, the people that were in here. The reason why people come into therapy, for me, it can be brief. It can be like, hey, this thing happened, let's talk about it, But for those who stay for a little bit longer, it's a lot of people are like all of you guys who have tons of support and all that kind of stuff. But I think I didn't realize, or some people didn't realize, and I know for myself it was the same thing, how much particular parts of my behavior were ingrained into certain things, right? So like for me, it was like I didn't realize that helping people, being people-pleasing was a thing until I started unpacking it. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this because of these things, right? Like, oh, because I grew up in a particular environment. Maybe I was the sibling that had this or whatever reason. And I'm the person that the people come to for support. I made a job now, but if I really look at the roots of this, it's because I grew up in a particular environment where my parents needed me and they were going through stuff. And as an ethnic child, I'm involved, right? So I'm fully there, writing the case, right? I'm at the bank, everything, right?
Yeah.
And what that meant is that like I was involved in it, but also I did things to ensure that there was peace in the family, or and that was cool once I knew it. But through therapy, I understood the impact of that. It meant that like I grew resentful when people didn't recognize, like, I did all this to you, you never once said nothing. And all of a sudden, randomly, I just cut someone off. Where did that come from? Why am I cutting someone? It's because I'm holding on to all this stuff, all the things I do, which means that I do things without asking for acknowledgement, which means I set up relationships with people that are unfair. Right?
Yeah, right?
So like the roots, like you see, like the thread that you keep pulling, and like how I engage with, and not that that's completely changed my life, but it's made me be like, oh, okay, so when I'm engaging with someone, like, is it because of, like, in my head, I create a full scenario where I'm the victim, right?
Right.
When I really look at it, like, what's the extent of this impact of this one thing? It means that I never really truly told people how I feel about things. I was like, so how do you feel? And how do you feel? And how do you feel? Okay, I'm going to align my feelings in the middle of this. And like, but why did I do that? So it came from this curiosity of like, oh, I kind of know. And then now I started pulling the thread of why I'm doing particular things. And some of it's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm actually okay with that being the reason. I'm actually fine with that. But some of it's like, I'm actually not, because it's impacting me. And it's impacting my relationships, and it's impacting the way I engage with an intimate partner, or the way I engage in work. So I want to be able to fix that, or I just want to know why this is happening, so I can feel a level of confidence. That it doesn't necessarily have to be because of a mental illness or there's major problems in my life. It's being able to understand myself in a way that's not just a Google search, but actually understand the long-term impacts of these things, and whether or not I'm okay with that. Because I might not be, and I might be, but I don't know until I explore, right? And there was a level of safety in that exploration because I had the time. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that part, just understanding.
Yeah.
Even before understanding, just knowing.
Just knowing.
Just knowing, I guess, is a very
naming
base aspect
naming
of
it, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to, so that's what that, oh, got you. Yeah.
Don't even necessarily have to put a label on it.
Yeah.
As well, but just knowing that this thing is there or whatever,
Yeah.
And then you can explore further how you want to explore further ultimately.
Yeah.
Let us know about Pola Practice though, because I want to.
Yeah, I think. I don't know, because you had that question I wanted to ask us.
No, You guys can invite me another day.
Yeah, because I actually really like that question. Yeah. So maybe do that because that's more important probably.
Yeah.
For everyone that's listening, and it can make it in the car.
It'll make it in the car. So just a little bit about the practice. It's run by 2 African women.
Just cut. No, I'm playing them.
That
wasn't even worth it.
It wasn't.
So is he Will Smith and I'm Chris Brown? Or
Chris Rock. Chris Brown did the same thing.
The floor is back to me. Oh, guys, we're taking up crucial time.
This is all your fault.
Go.
Stirring the pot, mister.
Literally.
Go.
So a practice run by 2 African women. It was originally founded by Nasalifia Namwinga, a lovely Zambian clinical psychologist, and I came in like a year later, so 2018, and I came in 2019, and we expanded it together. And the premise behind it is creating accessible and culturally safe spaces for people of marginalized identities, like exceptional mental health service that also is culturally responsive. And what we mean by culturally responsive is that when we're understanding people's issues or problems or social issues, we're understanding how and why the person's experience relates to that, right? So what does it look like for a Black woman to be talking about a particular situation? How much of that is, or the presentation is got to do with her race? How much of it's got to do with her gender, her spirituality? Because what we found is that a common example I use is experiences of racism. People would say, "Oh, you're just angry. Why don't you just, you just need to calm down, be all right, mate?" And it's like, well, I present in this particular way because it's a situation which any normal person who is experiencing racism would be angry about this. So is it a normal response to an abnormal situation? Because I would say that's what it is. I'd say a lot of our parents' experiences of coming to this country in the various ways that they have, their responses to things make sense given the context of their life and the context of how long they've been here, how many kids that they have, what's their situation have been. But a lot of the time in therapy and in the psychological space, the cohort that we're looking at is white men, right? Or like a US-centric perspective. So it's not including that. So if someone's disclosing, hey, I had dreams about my grandfather came to me and talked to me, is that person delusional, or is it in their culture? Like that's a meaningful thing for them to have a dream about a loved one that has meaning attached to that, right? So what we do is we don't want people to leave any parts of their identity at the door. We want someone to bring their whole self here and then be able to have a therapist who brings their whole self in there, right? So you're getting me, right, in that space. Yes, I will be professional and all that, but you're still getting me with my experiences of who I am, and I'm not leaving myself at the door. And I don't want you to do the same thing too. And we do it individually, like one-on-one counselling, but we also do it in a community space, whether that's volunteering, group work, all that kind of stuff. But we also believe that some of these issues that we have are not individual failings. They're actually systemic, institutional failings that I can't therapy you out of experiencing bigotry, right? Like I can help you like manage it and like regulate yourself through it, but like at the end of the day, I can't therapy you out of that. But what I can do is I can help create systemic change through the information I'm hearing in the space, and whether it's advocating to institutions or organizations or working with them to create like culturally safe spaces or spaces that incorporate this experience, so that the individual who experience racism at the workplace, that workplace can no longer be racist, right? So maybe then you wouldn't have to come to therapy about feeling like experiencing racism. So that's kind of how we work. We work with the individual, the community, and the system. And we do that with diverse therapists. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So come book me, yeah?
But where can they
remember,
find you then?
I don't know why it was brought to my attention, but ages ago, someone sent me, Pola Practice, yourself and someone else. I think it was when we were doing the online workshops, It was when we were doing online workshops during COVID. I forgot. Maybe we were advertising that we needed some mental health sessions
Someone
and
did
things like that.
But
But like I remember it was brought to our attention. Like there was one guy in particular sent like literally yourself and
Nasalifia.
Yeah, and obviously Pola, like the
Yeah.
organization. I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty dope. Like, this is actually kind of a sick concept of like, because I remember, I think I even tried to dive further and ask, okay, who else of like, that can represent us is in the space. It was very quiet at the time. It was literally just yourselves.
Still is.
Really, yeah, you know what I mean? And like, and that was all that was presented. I was like,
Gotta
oh
get
wow.
them to run a workship or something, man.
Yeah, we do.
We'll have conversations after
we'll-
this. But
We'll book you in.
the wake up call is maybe go to therapy, man.
I have many, but it's not worth it. Go to therapy. That's the way I can follow.
Therapy, man.
Or where can they find you if they do want to get in contact? You, Pola Practice.
www.polapractice.com.au, info@polapractice.com.au.
What's wrong with you, man? Like,
He wants them all.
He's like, I just want to, can you repeat one more time? I'm going to write it down. Yes.
Sky,
Send
man.
it.
No, it's not important.
that's dope.
Awkward in social settings. Thank you for
All of a
joining us.
sudden, we've got all these therapists in the room. I've got a diagnosis over here.
We all over it. All
I'm packing over
Yeah,
here.
wait, what are you doing right now? We're just clapping and smiling. Like,
I'll tell you, bro.
Good job.
This guy's 2 seconds from shitting his pants right now.
he's doing it again. What's wrong with this guy? Anyway, it's a wrap it up.
Hey, thank you for joining us for another episode of Disruption Podcast.
Thank you.
Next week is also going to be very good. I believe we got somebody on. I'm trying to remember if we do. Yeah, let's say we do. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow Pola Practice, follow us everywhere, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's 3 hours in.
Wow.